Chapter 12:20. Watching them leave, Lin Feng said, "These ancient vampire bats should be guarding the island. Maybe there are some rules preventing them from entering the island. Now that we're on the island, where should we go next? What are we looking for? Do you have a plan?" Nightmare Island is the territory of the Great Dream Evil Emperor. It's very dangerous, so we don't want to explore the depths of the island. What we're looking for is in the outer regions of the island. It's called the 9-een Mysterious Earth Concoction. Su Yibing said. 9-een Earth Profound Liquid? What's that? Lin Feng asked curiously. Hua Liar explained. It's a natural treasure formed by the fusion of Earth Profound Liquid and 9-een Earth Profound Liquid over hundreds of millions of years. It's very effective. It can purify magic energy and make it purer and purer. It's very suitable for cultivators who are about to break through. Cultivators who are about to break through can use the 9-een Earth Profound Liquid to purify their magic energy. Once their magic energy reaches a certain level of purity, breaking through is just a matter of time. I see. But Nightmare Island is so big. It won't be easy to find the 9-een Earth Profound Liquid, right? Lin Feng asked. Of course it won't be easy, but I've brought a treasure-seeking mouse with me. Miao Yuling patted the beast enslavement pouch on her waist, and a palm-sized, snow-white mouse appeared in her palm. Treasure-seeking mice were extremely rare spirit beasts. They were equally famous as dragon rabbits, and they were good at finding all kinds of natural treasures. Of course, treasure-seeking mice were very different from dragon rabbits. Dragon rabbits were good at finding natural treasures on the ground and in the mountains. Treasure-seeking mice were good at finding natural treasures underground. The 9-een Earth Profound Liquid was definitely in the underground world. That was exactly what treasure-seeking mice were good at. Little guy, take us to find the 9-een Earth Profound Liquid, Miao Yuling said to treasure-seeking mouse. Squeak, 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 squeak. Treasure-seeking mouse squeaked like a human, waving its paws from time to time. Then, it jumped to the ground and started searching the forest. For 3 days, Lin Feng and the others followed the treasure-hunting mouse through the forest. Finally, they entered a dense forest surrounded by black fog. The treasure-hunting mouse headed deeper into the forest. Within this dense forest, the Qi was dense, causing Lin Feng's group of 5 to shudder. In the distance, gusts of fierce wind suddenly swept up. A gale surged towards Lin Feng and the others, and a large area of the forest was instantly torn apart by the gale. Lin Feng took out the Hurricane Pearl and activated it. Immediately, the Hurricane Pearl turned into an energy shield, protecting Lin Feng's group. They were not swept away by the strong wind. Back in the stormy sea, Lin Feng didn't use the hurricane bead to deal with the hurricanes because there were many restrictions inside the hurricanes. The hurricane bead could deal with hurricanes, but it couldn't deal with restrictions. Therefore, the hurricane bead couldn't play its role at that time. Ignoring the terrifying restrictions inside the hurricanes would only lead to death. However, there was no restriction on the windstorm in the forest. After the windstorm was stopped, a sinister sound suddenly came from afar. Clouds of black fog drifted over, and the strange sound came from the black fog. Upon closer inspection, one could see that there were ghosts hidden in the black fog. These ghosts were different from ordinary ghosts. Their eyes were blood red, and they wore loose black robes. Blood-eyed ghosts. Lin Feng's expression changed when he saw the ghosts. Blood-eyed ghosts were an extremely terrifying existence among the ghosts. They could continuously devour all kinds of living beings to increase their strength. Moreover, these blood-eyed ghosts would kill and devour each other. Just how savage were these blood-eyed ghosts? In order to increase his own strength, he was willing to do anything. The windstorm in the forest was caused by the blood-eyed ghosts. Now that they were surrounded by a swarm of blood-eyed ghosts, it was too dangerous. Let's go, Lin Feng said in a low voice. We're surrounded. We can't escape, Miao Yuling said with an ugly expression. It's fine. Come with me, Lin Feng said. This was the best time to break out of the encirclement before the blood-eyed ghosts surrounded them. If they were completely surrounded, they would be in trouble. Lin Feng took out the heavenly fire, and it burned the void. The blood-eyed ghosts let out ear-piercing screeches when they came into contact with the heavenly fire. However, the heavenly fire was unable to extinguish these blood-eyed ghosts. This was because these blood-eyed ghosts had a very strange form. Their blood eyes contained a terrifying power that allowed them to withstand all kinds of powerful attacks. Heavenly fire. Hua Er's eyes suddenly lit up. She wanted to marry Lin Feng, so she came for the heavenly fire. Now that she saw the heavenly fire, she could not remain calm. The heavenly fire forced the blood-eyed ghosts to the sides, and the 5 of them quickly rushed out of the encirclement. They rushed into the depths of the forest. Finally, they saw a deep black hole. The treasure-seeking mouse squeaked as it pointed at the black hole. Lin Feng's and the others' eyes lit up. It seemed that the 9 Earth mysterious liquid might have appeared in the depths of the black hole. The 5 of them did not hesitate and quickly rushed into the black hole. However, Lin Feng's group did not notice that when the blood-eyed ghosts arrived at the black hole, they all knelt down and bowed. There seemed to be something terrifying inside the black hole, which was why the blood-eyed ghosts were so terrified. Not long after Lin Feng's group entered the black hole, a group of more than 100 people arrived at the periphery of the forest. They were Ao Bing and the others from the Dragon Palace. Third Prince, those 5 people have entered the depths of the forest. A commander of the oceanic species called True Monarch Tiger Shark said. Ao Bing looked into the depths of the forest and frowned. There are so many blood-eyed ghosts here. Why are they taking the risk to enter? Could there be some kind of treasure? Dragons were greedy, and they liked to collect treasures. The evil dragons were even more so. Ao Bing's eyes lit up when he thought about the possibility of treasures inside. Your subordinate congratulates the third prince. Soon, you will be able to obtain 4 peerless beauties and many treasures. It's a double blessing. The group of oceanic species immediately started to flatter him. Ao Bing smiled and said, when this prince obtains the treasures and brings the beauties home, all of you will be rewarded. Thank you, third prince. The oceanic species were overjoyed and quickly bowed to Ao Bing. You may dispense with the formalities. Ao Bing waved his hand. True Monarch Tiger Shark said, Your Highness, should we charge in now? Ao Bing said, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Just wait outside. Give the order to lay in ambush. When they come out, attack immediately. Kill the man and capture the 4 women alive. Yes. Over 100 experts of the sea race received the order and quickly scattered into the forest to hide. Chapter 12:21. The black hole slanted all the way down, and it was very deep. The 5 of them carefully walked into the depths, and there were only thumping sounds coming from the passage. Suddenly, a gloomy aura came from the depths, and they could faintly hear a fishy smell in the air. Lin Feng waved his right hand. The purple flame core fire and the black flame burning god fire were summoned by him. The flames burned fiercely, protecting them underneath and illuminating the passageway. Lin Feng's group finally saw what had flown out from the depths of the passage. It was a black insect the size of a fingernail, emitting a foul smell and covered in a carapace. Corpse-eating insects. Sun Yi exclaimed. Lin Feng had heard of corpse-eating insects before. Because they grew by eating corpses, their bodies were extremely poisonous. Moreover, corpse-eating insects had sharp fangs and claws, and could easily tear a cultivator's skin. Because of their poison, once the skin was pierced, the cultivator would be paralyzed and unable to move, and there would be no way to deal with them. The corpse-eating insects would take advantage of the situation and burrow into the cultivator's body. Once they burrowed into the cultivator's body, the insects would follow the flow of blood to the cultivator's heart, where they would eat the cultivator's heart and various organs before eating the cultivator's flesh. Lin Feng's group couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. When the insects flew over and touched the heavenly fire, many of them were directly burned to death, and a large number of corpse-eating insects fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng's group let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the heavenly fire could deal with these insects. If they could resist the heavenly fire's attack, it would be quite troublesome. Lin Feng continued to urge the heavenly fire, increasing its power. All the insects were enveloped by the heavenly fire, and then burned to death. The ground was littered with corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects. After all of them were burned to death, Lin Feng recalled the heavenly fire and said, "Looks like this place is much more frightening than we imagined. Everyone, pick up some corpse-eating insects and carry them with you. The corpse-eating insects' corpses will confuse the other insects." The four girls frowned. They were delicate beauties, so naturally, they didn't want to carry these smelly corpse-eating insects. I feel that those insects earlier were only a small portion of the insects. Maybe they have just woken up from their slumber. If my guess is correct, then there will be even more. We need to be careful in this place. Lin Feng, okay. They reluctantly took out a perfume pouch. Then the corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating. Immediately, the sachet became a smelly sachet. The four girls couldn't help but frown. They didn't wear the heavenly fire pouch on their waists either. Lin Feng guessed that if there wasn't such a large group of insects, the four girls would immediately throw away the heavenly fire pouch. Lin Feng also took a pouch full of corpse-eating insects, corpse-eating insects. The five of them endured the stench of the corpse-eating insects as they walked deeper. Soon, a large open area appeared in front of them. A 10-kilometer-wide canyon appeared in their line of sight. Why is there such a huge canyon here? Hualai frowned. Deep in the canyon was a huge abyss. Hualai curiously walked over, but when she reached the edge of the abyss, she immediately turned away and retched. Her face was very pale. Lin Feng's group of four walked over curiously. When they arrived at the edge of the abyss and looked inside, Lin Feng's face turned pale as well. Sun Yi, Miao Yuling, and Su Yibing also retched like Hualai. The abyss was filled with corpses. It was unknown how many corpses such a huge abyss could contain. Black masses of corpse-eating insects were crawling around the corpses. It was impossible to tell how many corpse-eating insects there were. Some of them were even as big as a wash basin. Their bodies were simply too big. Such large corpse-eating insects would probably be able to resist the heavenly fire for a short period of time. The four girls couldn't help but feel deep admiration for Lin Feng's foresight. If Lin Feng hadn't told them to bring corpse-eating insects' corpses to conceal their auras, they might have been discovered by the insects. They would have died without a doubt. The group hurriedly retreated, not daring to approach the abyss. There are so many corpses, and many of them are already rotten. I wonder when they were piled up here. Even after such a long time, these corpses still haven't turned into skeletons. How strong were they when they were alive? Hualai said with a pale face. Those corpses must have been unimaginably strong when they were alive. Maybe it's because they were so strong that corpse-eating insects were born. Lin Feng frowned slightly. They didn't dare to stay here for long. They followed the passage on the right side of the wall and walked all the way into the depths. Creak, creak, creak. After walking for 5 or 6 miles, the treasure-hunting mouse suddenly squealed and pointed its little paw at a cave not far away. The 5 of them arrived at the side of the cave. The cave was about 4 or 5 meters wide, and it was pitch black below. They couldn't see the inside of the cave. The 9 earth profound concoction should be below, Miao Yuling said. All right, everyone be careful when we go down later, Lin Feng said. The 4 girls nodded. Next, the 5 of them jumped into the cave and flew down. After descending for about 1 kilometer, they landed on the ground. It was very dark here, and a gloomy chi filled the air, causing everyone to shiver. Lin Feng and the others carefully walked deeper into the cave. The area below the cave was very large, about 7 or 8 miles wide. Lin Feng and the others arrived at the depths of the cave. Look, a stone vine. Sun Yi pointed at a rock wall and saw a huge stone vine growing on it. It was densely packed with vines. Lin Feng knew about the stone tribe and had seen them before. However, this was the first time he had seen a stone plant. He couldn't help but sigh at how mysterious the creator was. Miaoling Yu said, "Do you see that huge stone flower growing on the stone vine? I can feel a dense gloomy chi from it. I think that's the 9 earth profound concoction." The others nodded, agreeing with Miao Yuling's speculation. Hualai sighed. I didn't expect the 9 earth profound concoction to be a treasure condensed from such a huge stone vine. Suibing said, right now, the stone vine is still asleep, so this might be our chance. If we wait until the stone vine wakes up, then this stone vine will be extremely terrifying, and it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens for us to obtain the 9 earth profound liquid. Wait here. I'll go get the 9 earth profound concoction, Lin Feng said. The 4 girls nodded. Lin Feng was the fastest. It would be best if Lin Feng could take it. Lin Feng quickly flew towards the stone vine, but when he arrived next to the stone vine, a destructive chi emerged from the stone vine and filled the air. Not good, the stone vine is awake. Chapter 12:22. Lin Feng's expression changed when he saw the awakening of the stone vine. The aura emitted by the stone vine was too terrifying. He didn't know how strong it was, but the stone tribe members were all terrifying existences. Stone men, stone beasts, and even plants. As long as it was a member of the stone tribe, they had the power to destroy the world. The stone vine in front of him was so huge that it must have lived for tens of thousands of years. Naturally, it was difficult to fight against it. Lin Feng, come back quickly. We'll give up on the 9 earth Xian concoction, Sun Yi exclaimed. Lin Feng didn't dare to continue flying towards the stone flower. Once the stone vine fully awakened, Lin Feng felt that it had the power to kill him. Lin Feng felt that the awakening stone vine was even more dangerous than the giant octopus in the stormy sea. This meant that the stone vine's strength must have reached the divine realm. Although Lin Feng's cultivation wasn't bad, he knew that he would die if he faced such a stone vine. Lin Feng wanted to retreat, but he found that he was restrained by a force. His body flew towards the stone vine. It was the shimming demonic book. The shimming demonic book was an extremely strange treasure. Even now, Lin Feng couldn't understand it. Lin Feng felt that the shimming demonic book seemed to have its own spirituality. However, the shimming demonic book's weapon spirit had never appeared before. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't know what kind of state the shimming demonic book was in. He also didn't know if it really had a weapon spirit. However, Lin Feng knew that the shimming demonic book was very strange. Now, the shimming demonic book was controlling Lin Feng's body to fly towards the stone vine. F*CKU. Are you trying to kill me? Lin Feng wanted to cry. He transmitted his voice to the shimming demonic book, but it didn't reply. His body flew towards the stone flower. Lin Feng, are you crazy? Sun Yi, Hua Lier, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling all cried out in alarm. They looked at Lin Feng with incomparable worry. Lin Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. He also wanted to quickly withdraw, but the key was that his body was not under his control. Pa! A stone vine instantly tore through the void and whipped towards Lin Feng at high speed. Lin Feng was horrified. He could feel the danger of death. In this moment of life and death, Lin Feng activated the archaic dragonesque elephant skill. The archaic dragonesque elephant energy in his body surged and poured into the demonic bead. Then, Lin Feng controlled the demonic bead to collide with the shimming demonic book. The shimming demonic book did not want to collide with the demonic bead, so it chose to retreat. Lin Feng regained control of his body. He quickly dodged the stone vines, but Lin Feng was still unable to dodge them completely. He was hit by the stone vines. Kacha! Kacha! Even with his strong physique, who knew how many bones were broken, Lin Feng's body was sent flying and crashed into the stone flower. At this moment, a petal of the stone flower opened, and Lin Feng was instantly sucked in. Lin Feng had the impression that his physical body was going to explode. He was going to turn into food for the stone flower. This stone vine was too terrifying. Lin Feng's strength was not weak, but in the hands of the stone vine, he could not even withstand a single move. Lin Feng felt that he was about to die. But at this moment, the shimming demonic book flew out and a suction force surged out from the book. Lin Feng's wound spurted out a stream of blood, which was instantly absorbed by the shimming demonic book. After absorbing Lin Feng's blood, the shimming demonic book seemed to have come to life. The hundreds of mysterious Dao characters on the book started to move rapidly. The characters on the book were rearranged. Clang! The shimmering demonic book slammed into the stone flower's petal. Suddenly, the second layer of petals opened. The stone flower had a total of 9 layers of petals. When the second layer of petals opened, the 9 earth mystic liquid could be seen. The shimmering demonic book started to absorb the 9 earth mystic liquid. Even the demonic bead flew out and started to absorb the 9 earth mystic liquid. Lin Feng was stupefied. He hadn't thought that not only would he survive, but he would also see the 9 earth Xian liquid. He quickly took out a spatial porcelain bottle and stored the 9 earth mystic liquid. At this moment, a terrifying wave of energy surged out from the stone flower. The third layer of petals opened. The fourth layer of petals opened. The fifth layer of petals opened. The sixth layer of petals opened. The seventh layer of petals opened. The eighth layer of petals opened. Lin Feng did not know what was going on. Why would the stone flower's petals open? This made him feel strange. At this moment, the 9th layer of petals opened. Lin Feng stared at the 9th layer of petals without blinking. He did not know what was in the 9th layer of petals. When the 9th layer of petals opened, a ball of dense energy appeared in Lin Feng's vision. Within the ball of energy, there was a vague figure sitting cross-legged. He could not see the figure's face clearly. He could not even tell if it was a man or a woman. However, it was definitely a person. Oh my God! A living being was born from the stone flower? Lin Feng's expression changed. The demonic bead and the shimmering demonic book seemed to know that they were in trouble. They immediately broke through the outermost layer of petals. A god was born from the stone flower. Lin Feng did not dare to stay any longer. He quickly rushed out. The shimmering demonic book and the demonic bead entered Lin Feng's body. The god, sitting cross-legged in the ball of dense energy behind him, opened his eyes. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 cold eyes pierced through the void and shot toward Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng felt that his body could not move. When the eyes shot toward him, the shimmering demonic book and the demonic bead each released a ball of energy to protect Lin Feng's body. Bang! Lin Feng was sent flying by the eyes. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, he survived. He did not dare to stay any longer. He quickly rushed out. Go! Hurry up and leave! Lin Feng shouted. Sunny, Hua Lier, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling did not expect this to happen. A god was born from the stone flower. When the 4 of them saw this scene, they were scared silly. When they heard Lin Feng shout, they came back to their senses. How could they dare to stay any longer? They quickly rushed out. The stone vines continued to extend, wrapping around Lin Feng. Explode. Lin Feng took out a dozen Dao treasures and detonated them. No matter how precious Dao treasures were, they could not compare to his life. Boom! After the Dao treasures were detonated, the stone vines were swallowed by the explosion. However, what made Lin Feng's hair stand on end was that the stone vines quickly rushed out of the explosion. They did not suffer much damage. The stone vines were too terrifying. Lin Feng clenched his teeth and took out the demigod weapon Evil Dragon Blade he had obtained from Wang Zhanlong. It was a supreme treasure forged by a god-level powerhouse of the Evil Dragon clan. Later, it was obtained by Wang Zhanlong. Wang Zhanlong was bribed by Huangfu Qingtian and challenged Lin Feng. He wanted to kill Lin Feng, but he was killed by Lin Feng. All the treasures were taken by Lin Feng, including the demigod weapon Evil Dragon Blade. Now, in order to escape, he did not hesitate to destroy the demigod weapon Evil Dragon Blade. Explode. Lin Feng took out the Evil Dragon Blade and detonated its self-destruct array. Bang! The Evil Dragon Blade, a half-godly weapon, exploded. Destructive energies rose up in the air and surrounded the vines. The vines which had been chasing Lin Feng exploded into pieces. Chapter 12:23. Swoosh, Sun Yi, Hua Lier, Su Yibing, and Miao Lingyu rushed up one after another. Lin Feng also rushed up to the top of the cave. The demigod artifact's explosion had caused the cave below to collapse. Fortunately, they had moved quickly enough, or they would have been buried. Wong, Wong, Wong. But at this moment, the corpse-eating bugs in the abyss were alarmed. After all, the commotion from before was too big. It was impossible not to alarm these corpse-eating insects. By the time Lin Feng's group of 5 rushed out, the path ahead was already blocked by a large number of corpse-eating bugs. This is troublesome. Seeing the overwhelming number of corpse-eating bugs, Lin Feng's expression turned grave. The corpse-eating bugs were rioting. The situation was very dangerous. Sun Yi, Hua Lai, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling's faces were as pale as paper. The situation before them was too despairing. The king-rank corpse-eating bugs haven't come out yet. We still have hope of escaping, Lin Feng said solemnly. As soon as he said that, he took out the purple earthcore fire and the black gold incinerate fire. The heavenly fire burned fiercely, burning a large number of corpse-eating bugs to death. But there were too many of them. The heavenly fire could only burn a portion of them. So, there were still quite a few corpse-eating bugs approaching Lin Feng's group. At this moment, Lin Feng's group of 5 frantically attacked the approaching corpse-eating bugs. Screech. At this moment, an ear-piercing screech rang out from behind them. Dozens of king-rank corpse-eating bugs rushed over, emitting a foul stench. Each of them was extremely terrifying. Their claws could easily tear apart Dao artifacts. Explode! Lin Feng threw out several Dao artifacts. The Dao artifacts self-destructed. The powerful shockwave engulfed the dozens of Insect King-class corpse-eating insects. A large number of ordinary corpse-eating insects were instantly killed, but the Insect King-class corpse-eating insects were only blown away and didn't suffer any serious injuries. The defense of these king-rank corpse-eating bugs was too strong. Those Insect King-level corpse-eating insects were also quite angry after being blasted away. They once again charged towards Lin Feng's group. Lin Feng's expression turned gloomy. He took out a few more Dao artifacts and threw them forward. The Dao artifact exploded, killing the densely packed corpse-eating bugs. However, there were too many of them. The corpse-eating insects blocking the front had just been blasted to death, and then new corpse-eating insects took their place. In the end, Lin Feng and the other 4 found it difficult to move. It's over. We're going to die, Sun Yi screamed in horror. Hua Lai, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling also had expressions of despair on their faces. With me here, you won't die, Lin Feng said. The eyes of the 4 women suddenly lit up, and they looked at Lin Feng in unison. Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword. At the same time, he also took out the heavenly god liquid. He poured 5 drops of heavenly god liquid onto the black dragon sword. Ah, this is the heavenly god liquid? It seems to be even purer than the heavenly god liquid I used before. We're saved. Sun Yi immediately shouted in excitement. Get out of the way, Lin Feng shouted. The 4 women quickly separated. Lin Feng was holding his sword with both hands and slashing at the enemy. Groan. A high-pitched dragon roar could be heard. The black dragon sword was activated after absorbing the energy of the heavenly god liquid. The sword Qi Lin Feng sent out turned into a black dragon. The corpse-eating bugs blocking the front were all destroyed. Lin Feng and the other 4 quickly rushed forward, disappearing into the passage. They didn't dare to stay for even a moment. The 5 of them raised their speed to the limit and flew out. Behind them, the corpse-eating bugs blotted out the sky and covered the earth. There were too many of them, and it was impossible to kill them all. Lin Feng stayed at the back. As he fled, he used the black dragon sword to attack the surrounding walls. The walls collapsed. Although they couldn't really block the corpse-eating bugs, at least they could temporarily slow down the speed of the corpse-eating bugs. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Finally, Lin Feng and the other 4 rushed out of the cave. As soon as they rushed out, a dense group of blood-eyed ghosts pounced on them. Lin Feng used the heavenly god liquid again. With a slash of his sword, the blood-eyed ghosts were killed one by one. Lin Feng felt the pinch after using 10 drops of heavenly god liquid in such a short time. However, in order to escape, the heavenly god liquid was a necessary consumable. Lin Feng and the other 4 rushed out of the area where the blood-eyed ghosts were. They came to the dense forest outside. Just as they were about to leave, they were surrounded by hundreds of cultivators. These cultivators looked like humans, but they were extremely ugly. Their bodies were either covered in scales or shells. The cultivators surrounding Lin Feng and the other 4 were naturally the oceanic cultivators. The only good-looking one was the third prince of the Dragon Palace, Ao Bing. "Hey, it's you." When Ao Bing saw Lin Feng, his eyes flashed with a cold light. The Oceanic clan? Lin Feng was shocked. He had heard many rumors about the Oceanic clan, but this was the first time he had seen one. He looked at Ao Bing in confusion and asked, "Do you know me?" "Lin Feng, a new human supreme genius. You killed Shuezong Xian of the Demon Clan not long ago. How can I not know you?" Ao Bing sneered. If Ao Bing could say this, it was obvious that the Oceanic clan was very clear about the outside world. After pausing for a moment, Ao Bing continued, "You even killed Wang Zhanlong, a subordinate that I had nurtured. Do you know how much effort and resources it took for me to nurture a subordinate like Wang Zhanlong? I have always wanted to take your life, but I have never found a suitable opportunity. Since you have walked right into my trap today, this will be your burial ground." As soon as Ao Bing finished speaking, before he could give the order to attack, Lin Feng attacked Ao Bing. 1,000-meter-long sword light slashed down, and Ao Bing's expression changed drastically. He dodged in a sorry state. He had not expected Lin Feng to attack without warning. Sunny, Hua Lai, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling had not expected Lin Feng to suddenly attack. Lin Feng had his reasons for attacking in advance. First, there was the threat of the corpse-eating insects, so he had to leave as soon as possible. Second, Lin Feng had heard Ao Bing mention Wang Zhanlong. Lin Feng thought of the Blue Cloud sect, where Wang Zhanlong had gone missing for many years. He also thought of Wang Zhanlong's pseudo-divine weapon, the evil dragon blade. Therefore, Lin Feng guessed that Wang Zhanlong's disappearance for nearly 10 years had something to do with the Oceanic clan in front of him. Wang Zhanlong might have a deep relationship with the Oceanic clan. Lin Feng had killed Wang Zhanlong, so he was not friends with the Oceanic clan. Therefore, Lin Feng immediately attacked. Ao Bing was only sent flying a dozen meters by the sword chi. His injuries were not fatal. However, the dozen Oceanic clan cultivators around Ao Bing were not so lucky. They were all killed by Lin Feng. "Let's go," shouted Lin Feng. He took the lead and rushed into the distance. Sunny, Hua Lai, Su Yibing, and Miao Yuling followed him and rushed out of the encirclement. "Your Highness, are you okay?" Tiger Shark, True Monarch, and the others quickly ran to Ao Bing, who had fallen on the ground, and asked worriedly. They did not necessarily care about Ao Bing. The reason he was worried about Ao Bing was that if Ao Bing died here, the guards would also be executed by the Dragon Palace. Ao Bing only had superficial wounds. He was not seriously injured. He got up from the ground and shouted angrily, "Chase after him!" Just as the group of people was about to chase after Ao Bing, a buzzing sound came from the depths. Ao Bing and the others could not help but look in confusion. They saw corpse-eating insects flying toward them. "It's a swarm of corpse-eating insects. Run!" Many Oceanic clan cultivators shouted in horror when they saw the corpse-eating insects. Ao Bing was so frightened that his face turned pale. He no longer cared about Lin Feng and the others. He turned around and fled. The corpse-eating insects chased after them. Many Oceanic clan cultivators were caught by the insects. They did not even have time to scream before they were eaten by the insects until only their bones were left. Chapter 12:24. Lin Feng's group of 5 left quickly, escaping from the sea race and the corpse-eating bugs. Asterisk boom. Asterisk a violent sound came from the depths of the island. Lin Feng's group of 5 couldn't help but look towards the depths of Nightmare Island. They could vaguely see 4 ancient ships engaged in a chaotic battle. 4 pirate kings? Lin Feng was surprised. He had seen the Empress and Barbossa before, but he didn't know who the other 2 pirate kings were. He couldn't see the flags of the other 2 ships clearly because they were too far away. The 4 pirate kings must be here for some great treasure, but he didn't know what it was. However, Lin Feng didn't intend to explore the depths of Nightmare Island. This island was too dangerous. Since he had obtained the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid, he should learn to be satisfied. If he continued to stay here, he might die. Lin Feng's group of 5 left Nightmare Island and fought a bloody battle with the ancient vampire bats guarding the island. After going through many dangers, they finally made it out of the stormy sea region. Everyone felt extremely lucky to be able to make it out alive. This is the sea race's territory. We can't stay here for long. Let's go, Lin Feng said, and left the deep sea region with the four girls. They finally came to an island in the middle of the East Sea. Lin Feng opened up a cave and set up restrictions to protect the cave. Then, Lin Feng took out the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid. He distributed the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid to everyone, and they found a place to refine it. Asterisk boom. Asterisk as the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid was refined, Lin Feng felt a powerful energy in his body being absorbed by his magic power. This energy was the energy that the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid broke down after being refined. After absorbing the 9 Earth Mystic Liquid's energy, his magic power became purer and purer. 3 days later, Lin Feng finally completed his breakthrough. His realm had broken through from the 9th level of the creation realm to the 10th level of the creation realm. Lin Feng opened his eyes, full of joy. He had finally broken through to the 10th level of the creation realm. Another breakthrough. This was the life and death realm. Breaking through the life and death realm and becoming an ancient giant. This was something that countless cultivators dreamed of. It was also the realm that countless cultivators pursued for their entire lives. Now, Lin Feng was only 26 years old and was about to break through to the life and death realm. Countless cultivators had cultivated for thousands of years without having the chance to break through to the life and death realm. Even though I lost 10 drops of Heavenly God liquid, I broke through to the next level. It's not a bad deal. Lin Feng couldn't help comforting himself. However, using up 10 drops of Heavenly God elixir in one go really pained him. After all, he had only obtained 35 drops of Heavenly God elixir in total. And this is... Suddenly, Lin Feng noticed a strange change in the Dark Nether Fiend book. The Shimming Fiend book gave Lin Feng a different feeling than before. However, Lin Feng couldn't pinpoint exactly what was different. This was a feeling that could only be sensed but not expressed in words. Could it be related to absorbing a large amount of 9 Earth Profound Nectar? Lin Feng couldn't help but think of a certain possibility. He took out the 9-colored illusory stone and held it in his hand. Then, he sat down cross-legged and started comprehending the Tao character on the Dark Nether Fiend book. Lin Feng had only comprehended death and annihilation out of the hundreds of Tao characters in the book. If he wanted to comprehend the other Tao characters, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. If he tried to forcefully comprehend them, he would feel as if his head had been split open. It would be a fate worse than death. However, it was different this time. Lin Feng sensed a dense life energy. A new Tao character. Lin Feng was shocked. It seemed like there was a new Tao character on the Dark Nether Fiend book that he could comprehend. He carefully tried to comprehend this new Tao character. This Tao character was brimming with vitality, as if it contained a vigorous life energy. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng finally saw this Tao character and comprehended it. This Tao character was the life character. The life of all living things. The life of life energy. The life character represented the true essence of life, the origin of life. When Lin Feng comprehended the life character, something shocking happened. Originally, during the life and death battle between Lin Feng and Shui Zongxian had plundered 2,000 years of his lifespan. However, when he comprehended the life character, Lin Feng's lifespan quickly increased. Soon, it increased from 8,000 years to 10,000 years, and it was still climbing. Lin Feng's lifespan increased to 20,000 years before stopping. When Lin Feng comprehended the true essence of the life character, his lifespan actually reached 20,000 years. Lin Feng had a lifespan of 10,000 years in the creation realm because his bloodline was too powerful. The stronger the bloodline, the longer the lifespan. However, ordinary creation realm cultivators only had a lifespan of 4,000 to 5,000 years. Even the lifespan of an eternal powerhouse was only 10,000 years. Some of the top eternal powerhouses might have a lifespan of 14,000 to 5,000 years. However, Lin Feng had yet to break through to the life and death realm. He had yet to become an eternal powerhouse. His lifespan had already reached 20,000 years. It was truly shocking. The life character actually allowed my lifespan to reach 20,000 years. This is truly heaven-defying. Lin Feng was ecstatic. The life character and death character. These 2-foot life and death characters. Is there something special about them? Then, Lin Feng couldn't help but think about the relationship between the life and death characters. The two life characters opposed each other but were also connected. When Lin Feng activated the life and death characters, suddenly, the two life characters took the initiative to fly together. The life character was on the left, while the death character was on the right. The two life characters began to spin. Moreover, the two life characters formed a certain tight connection. Emperor technique. Seal of life and death. Then, a fleeting voice sounded in Lin Feng's mind. An illusory figure appeared in his mind. The figure condensed the life character in his left hand and the death character in his right hand. He condensed an ancient seal with the life and death characters. The ancient seal emitted the aura of life and death. Boom! The illusory figure threw out the seal. The universe shattered and the sky shattered as if the end of the world had arrived. When the illusory figure disappeared, a seal appeared in Lin Feng's mind. The content recorded in the incantation was the condensation incantation for the monarch art, seal of life and death. Heavens, the combination of the two life characters actually turned into an emperor technique. Lin Feng's face was filled with shock. An emperor technique was a supreme technique that transcended the primordial era. It was a technique created by a great emperor. This shimming demonic tome is too terrifying. There are hundreds of life characters. How can different life characters be combined? How many top-tier techniques will I be able to learn? Lin Feng's face was filled with shock at the thought of this. Lin Feng had lost 10 drops of Heavenly God elixir during this operation, which made him feel very pained. But now, he had a breakthrough in his cultivation. His lifespan had increased by 12,000 years, reaching 20,000 years. He had also obtained an emperor technique, seal of life and death. Not to mention 10 drops of Heavenly God elixir. It would be worth it even if he had to use up all of it. After a long time, Lin Feng calmed himself down. He realized that Sun A, Miao Yuling, Hua Lai and Su Yibing had yet to awaken from their cultivation. Lin Feng quickly left the cave. He didn't want the 4 women to keep bothering him. He flew to the nearest place where cultivators were gathered. Lin Feng wanted to use the space and time wormhole to go to the central continent. The central continent was the center of the Tianwu continent. It was said that the central continent was incomparably vast. A single continent was larger than the 72 northern continents. From this, one could see how vast the central continent was. Chapter 12:25. Middle Continent. I'm finally here. Lin Feng came out of the space-time wormhole and shouted with his arms wide open. This was his first time coming to the Middle Continent, the heart of the Sky Martial Continent. In the Middle Continent, there were the most ancient clans, such as the immemorial Jiang clan. There were also the most ancient dynasties, such as the 4 ancient dynasties. There were also the most ancient sects, such as the Fortune Gate. There were also the most ancient sects, such as the Yin-Yang sect. It could be said that the Middle Continent was the holy land of the Sky Martial Continent, a place that countless people yearned for. Crazy. Many cultivators who came out with Lin Feng looked at him with disdain. Lin Feng rubbed his nose awkwardly. Kill them? Don't let them escape. Don't let the princes and princesses of the immortal ancient empire escape. Shouts of killing could be heard from afar. Lin Feng and the rest had just come out of the transfer array, so they did not know what was happening in the ancient city. After hearing the shouts of killing, they turned around and looked around the ancient city. In the huge transfer array, only the few hundred people who had just come out of the space-time wormhole were still standing there. In the distant ancient city, there were battles everywhere. Smoke rose everywhere, and shouts of killing shook the heavens. Damn, what's going on? Lin Feng and the rest were dumbfounded. Even now, they still did not understand what was happening. The ancient city they were in was called the immortal ancient imperial capital. It was the imperial capital of an ancient dynasty called the immortal ancient empire. Such a huge imperial capital should be the core of the ancient dynasty. The nobles and ministers all lived here, and the experts were as common as the clouds. But now, the imperial capital had already been broken through. No wonder there was no one in the transfer array. Such a huge battle had covered the entire ancient city. The cultivators in charge of the transfer array were probably involved in the battle as well. In the distance, hundreds of people rushed over. Those cultivators were protecting more than 10 young cultivators. Those young cultivators should be the princes and princesses of the immortal ancient empire. Lin Feng could feel a powerful aura from 4 or 5 cultivators. Those cultivators were all top geniuses. Behind those cultivators was a dense army of pursuers. Open the transfer array and escape. A young cultivator shouted. A young cultivator shouted. The teleportation array seemed to be his only hope of escaping. One of the elders said, "We can't take the teleportation formation. The teleportation formation that leads us out has already been cut off by those forces. If we enter the teleportation formation, we'll be teleported into their trap. At that time, only death awaits us. Right now, only the teleportation formation in the imperial capital hasn't been destroyed. It's clear that they've made ample preparations. They even want to catch a turtle in a jar. No matter how many reinforcements come, they'll be trapped within the imperial capital." Who is this? How could he be so wicked? Hearing the immortal ancient country elder's words, Lin Feng immediately rolled his eyes. Those people were too ruthless. Even innocent people like Lin Feng have been scammed. The imperial capital has been heavily surrounded. None of you will be able to escape. Surrender now, and I'll give you a quick death, Lin Feng said coldly. The pursuing cultivator shouted, his voice filled with endless iciness and killing intent. Now, it wasn't just the immortal ancient country cultivators whose faces were as pale as paper. Even the cultivators who had teleported out with Lin Feng were pale with fright. Although they didn't have anything to do with the immortal ancient country, the cultivators who had attacked the immortal ancient country clearly didn't think so. Anyone who wasn't on their side was destined to be killed. "Everyone, we're going to die either way. Why don't you fight with us and break out of this encirclement?" An elder from the immortal ancient country shouted. In such a dangerous situation, this was indeed the only way. Although they didn't want to have anything to do with the immortal ancient country, they had no other choice. They could only work together with the immortal ancient country cultivators to break out of this encirclement. When the group of people gathered together, there were about 800 or 900 people. Kill! Heaven-shaking battle cries rang out one after another as cultivators swarmed over from all directions. Cultivators from both sides immediately clashed, and it was difficult to tell who had the upper hand. In the air, there were corpses of cultivators falling down. Some were like Lin Feng, some were from the immortal ancient country. Of course, there were also cultivators who had besieged them. This battle could be said to be extremely tragic. After losing 500 or 600 people, only 300 or 400 people were left, and they managed to break out of the encirclement with great difficulty. "Everyone, escort a young master out of here," the leading elder from the immortal ancient country said in a deep voice. Clearly, they planned to separate and escort the princes and princesses of the immortal ancient country. If they escaped together, they might even be wiped out in one fell swoop. If they split up, their chances of escaping would also be much higher. "You must be careful." The elders from the immortal ancient country each led a dozen cultivators to escort a young master out of here. There were 5 young masters in total, 4 men and 1 woman. One of the young masters was about 7 or 8 years old, and he was so scared that he couldn't stop crying. Chapter 12:26. Most of the time, life was extremely fragile. Just like now, cultivators were falling into pools of blood one after another. Those cultivators had been excitedly discussing various matters of the central continent in the space-time wormhole, but in the blink of an eye, they had all died miserably. Life was so dramatic. It was filled with many unexpected things, including the withering of life. Swoosh, Lin Feng was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had rushed out more than 10 miles. The army chasing after him could not catch up to him at all. However, a fiery dragonhawk knight had locked onto Lin Feng and was rushing over on his fiery dragonhawk. This fiery dragonhawk knight's cultivation was exceptionally strong. He held a halberd in his hand and looked like a war god. He glanced at Lin Feng, who was flying in the air. "You're so young, but you're so fast. If it weren't for the fiery dragonhawk, even I would not have been able to catch up to you." A cold voice came from the sky. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight looked at Lin Feng indifferently as if he was looking at a dead man. Clearly, in his eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. He did not recognize Lin Feng. This was normal. Although Lin Feng was famous in the 3,000 provinces, only a small portion of people had actually seen Lin Feng. Whether it was on the Prodigy Arena, the 72 Paragon Pillars, or outside the Prodigy Arena, how many people had seen Lin Feng? At most, tens of thousands of people were already not bad. And how many people were there in the Sky Martial Continent? There were 63,000 provinces in the Sky Martial Continent. The number of people in each province could be counted as trillions. It was impossible to count how many people there were in the 3,000 provinces. If one really wanted to describe how many people there were in the 3,000 provinces, perhaps it was like the water in the ocean. One drop of water was one person. Could you count how many drops of water there were in the ocean? Of course, that was impossible. So, many people had heard of Lin Feng's name. He was the genius who had stepped on Morong Tianshan and ascended to the Prodigy Arena. But to say that they all knew him was too unrealistic. Lin Feng didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to fly into the distance. This place was too close to the immortal ancient nation's imperial capital. In the distance, there was a large army chasing after him. In the sky, there were dozens of fiery Dragonhawk Knights. If he was delayed by this person, he would be surrounded by a large number of cultivators. If they were surrounded by the army, it would be troublesome. Enough ants can kill an elephant. Not to mention that there were so many powerful cultivators here. Leave your life. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight who was chasing after Lin Feng said coldly. The fiery Dragonhawk's mind was connected to Lin Feng's, and it immediately spat out flames that covered the sky, shrouding Lin Feng. Previously, many cultivators had died to the flames. Lin Feng increased his speed and dodged the fire Dragonhawk's flame attack. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight's expression was very ugly. He sneered and said, jumping up and down like a monkey, but no matter how much a monkey jumps, it can't escape death. Swish! As soon as he said that, the fiery Dragonhawk Knight waved his halberd. Terrifying beams of light swept out, slashing toward Lin Feng. Lin Feng twisted and turned in midair, dodging the enemy's attack and continuing to fly into the distance. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight's expression became uglier and uglier. He had attacked several times, but all of them had ended in failure. This made him very angry. The two sides, one fleeing and one chasing, flew for a full 50 miles. Above the ancient forest, only Lin Feng and the fiery Dragonhawk Knight were left. There were no other pursuers. At this time, Lin Feng stopped and looked at the fiery Dragonhawk Knight with an indifferent expression. Brat, why aren't you running anymore? You know you're going to die, so you're giving up? The fiery Dragonhawk Knight looked at Lin Feng with disdain. This was a life and death realm expert. Together with the fiery Dragonhawk Knight, they were exceptionally powerful. Lin Feng curiously asked, why do you want to destroy the immortal ancient nation? Could it be that they have some kind of great treasure? Let's hear it. All the cultivators in the world came for benefits. All disputes were caused by benefits. Lin Feng didn't believe that these powers would destroy the immortal ancient nation for no reason. You want to know? Go ask Yama. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight's expression was cold. He urged his fiery Dragonhawk Knight to fuse with his mount, turning into a streak of fiery light. The halberd in his hand smashed toward Lin Feng. This attack seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. It instantly tore apart the void, causing mountains and rivers to shatter. The attack of a life and death realm expert was already powerful enough. Coupled with the charging power of the fiery Dragonhawk Knight, its power was greatly increased. Thus, the resulting attack was extremely frightening. At that moment, the attack was about to crash onto Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng stood in the air, not even bothering to dodge. He reached out with his right hand and made a grabbing motion. Crack! Lin Feng grabbed the halberd that was falling towards him. You! The fiery Dragonhawk Knight looked at Lin Feng in shock. This was something he didn't even dare to dream about. His tyrannical attack was actually caught by a young cultivator in his 20s. Even a supreme genius wouldn't have an easy time dealing with his attack. Lin Feng raised his right hand and raised the halberd. then smashed it toward the fiery Dragonhawk Knight. The fiery Dragonhawk Knight immediately retreated after Lin Feng snatched his halberd. However, the fiery Dragonhawk Knight's body was huge and its reaction was slow. It was clearly impossible for it to retreat. Lin Feng's halberd smashed into the fiery Dragonhawk Knight's body. Bang! The fiery Dragonhawk Knight's huge body was instantly torn apart. "Who are you?" The fiery Dragonhawk Knight looked at Lin Feng in horror. Now, he naturally knew that he had kicked an iron plate. His heart was filled with endless fear. "You weren't like this when you wanted to kill me," said Lin Feng indifferently as he walked toward the cultivator. "I'm a cultivator from the Yin Yang sect. There might be some misunderstanding," said the fiery Dragonhawk Knight. "So you're from the Yin Yang sect. Is that old bastard Song Mingyu dead?" Lin Feng sneered. When he had come out of the battlefield, Song Mingyu had recognized him and almost killed him. If Holy Lord Peacock and King Zhan Peng hadn't arrived, he would have died. Lin Feng naturally hadn't forgotten about Song Mingyu. He didn't have a good impression of the Yin Yang sect, an ancient sect. Lin Feng didn't have a good impression of them. "Brat, how dare you be so impudent to the ancestor of the Yin Yang sect?" The fiery Dragonhawk Knight looked at Lin Feng with a gloomy expression. "You're courting death. How dare you be so impudent to me?" Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He stepped forward and directly attacked the fiery Dragonhawk Knight with his palm. "I'll kill you." The fiery Dragonhawk Knight roared and attacked Lin Feng. However, he wasn't a match for Lin Feng at all. Lin Feng destroyed his Dantian in 3 moves. After that, Lin Feng used the soul-searching technique to search for the secrets in the fiery Dragonhawk Knight's soul. However, the fiery Dragonhawk Knight's soul was sealed. When Lin Feng tried to search his soul, the seal instantly destroyed his soul. Chapter 12:27. More than 10 elders from the immortal ancient empire were escorting the 7th prince into the distance. The 7th prince was one of the top geniuses of the immortal ancient empire, a supreme genius. "Kill!" The void split open, and shouts shook the heavens. Countless cultivators charged over. "Break out! Escort the young master away!" The elders from the immortal ancient empire roared. They did their best to kill the enemies, but there were too many of them. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't break out of the army. Pooh! In the end, an expert killed the 7th prince in midair. Kill! In another area, the immortal ancient empire's only princess was also surrounded. The battle here was even more intense. The elders who were escorting the princess frantically tried to break out of the encirclement. However, more and more people were killed. The immortal ancient empire's princess was also seriously injured, and her face was pale. Sacrifice the divine artifact, the immortal ancient dragon boat. The leader of the elders roared. Immediately, one of the elders took out a divine artifact, and they allowed the princess to enter the immortal ancient dragon prefecture. Bang, bang, bang. Following that, the elders chose to self-detonate. After they self-detonated, their flesh, blood, and soul essence were completely devoured by the divine artifact. Great uncle, 5th uncle, the immortal ancient empire's princess wept. Her heart was filled with pain and hatred as she watched her loved ones die in front of her. The elders self-detonated without fear of death, and they successfully activated the immortal ancient dragon boat. The precious artifact broke through the void and brought the immortal ancient empire's princess away. Blazing Mulberry Town was located outside the famous ancient Blazing Mulberry Forest. It was 13,000 li away from the immortal ancient empire. This was a place one had to pass to enter the ancient Blazing Mulberry Forest. Thus, people from all walks of life came and went. Lin Feng arrived at Blazing Mulberry Town. He found a decent restaurant and ordered some food. The surrounding cultivators were all discussing the destruction of the immortal ancient empire. "Have you heard? The immortal ancient empire was destroyed by the Yin Yang sect, the Fortune Gate, the Tao Heaven sect, and the Broken Sky Pavilion," a cultivator said. These 4 powers were the top powers of the central continent. Even in the Tianwu continent's 3,000 prefectures, they were the most powerful force. "Of course I have. However, I wonder why the 4 great powers would destroy the immortal ancient country." I heard that a living nine-orifice stone man was found in immortal ancient country. Hiss. Many cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. There was no need to describe the strength of the stone tribe, but the stone tribe was also divided into different grades. The most powerful stone clan was the nine-orifice stone clan. It was said that once he grew up, he would be comparable to a great emperor. Within the nine-hold stone clan, the nine-hold stone humanoid was publicly acknowledged as the strongest clan. It's said that the nine-orifice stone hand held the heavenly book, and the heavenly book was imprinted with endless Tao laws. It hid a great secret, another cultivator said. This news was too shocking. It could be said to be earth-shattering. The nine orifices stone man was already enough to shock countless people. Now, the nine orifices stone man was actually holding a heavenly book. The nine orifices stone man discovered in immortal ancient country was enough to shock the world. Although immortal ancient country was far more powerful than ordinary desolate era powers, their foundation was lacking. They simply couldn't contend against the four top powers. They had great treasures, but they couldn't protect them. Their destruction was within reason. A cultivator sighed. This was the cruelty of the world of cultivators. Without enough strength, one was destined to be an ant or a dog. Immortal ancient country's destruction was full of sorrow. So many people had died miserably. This was perhaps the truest reality of the world of cultivators. Countless cultivators shed blood every day. Countless people died miserably. Lin Feng drank by himself. He had experienced the immortal ancient country's breakout and personally witnessed rivers of blood. Corpses were piled up like mountains in immortal ancient country's capital. Those who saw it shed tears, and those who heard it grieved. However, Lin Feng was powerless to change anything. Not long after, news spread throughout immortal ancient country. 3 princes had already been killed, and the elders who had escorted Princess Gu Yuru had all died. Gu Yuru had escaped with injuries. As for the little prince Gu Yujun, there was still no news about him. The 4 great powers are going to completely wipe us out. Many people sighed. Countless people have died miserably. The people are in a terrible situation. These top powers killed so many people for their own selfish desires. Aren't they afraid of retribution? A cultivator angrily said. However, his companions hurriedly covered his mouth. They were only ordinary loose cultivators. Perhaps they sympathized with the deaths of innocent people, but they definitely shouldn't talk about the 4 great powers in private. Those 4 great powers were too powerful. Talking about them in private could very well bring about a fatal disaster. Lin Feng paid the bill and left the restaurant. He directly went to the Mercenary Union to find out how to get to the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters. The Central Continent was too big. A single continent was bigger than the 72 northern continents. It wasn't easy to find an ancient city with a space-time wormhole. You want to go to the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters? Is this young master a Spirit Array Master? You want to go to the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters to participate in the 3000 Continents tournament? When the elder of the Mercenary Union heard that Lin Feng wanted to go to the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters, his attitude immediately became amiable. Lin Feng asked in surprise, "The 3000 Continents tournament? What's that?" The elder said, "So you're not going to participate in the 3000 Continents tournament?" The elder of the Mercenary Union's attitude became cold and indifferent again. Lin Feng threw him a bag of mid-grade spirit stones. When the elder of the Mercenary Union opened the bag and saw over 100 mid-grade spirit stones, his eyes widened. He accepted them without a trace, and a warm smile appeared on his face as he said, "The 3000 Continents tournament gathers the most talented Spirit Array Masters in the 3000 continents. Not only are the rewards generous, but those with good results can also cultivate in the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters Sacred Tower. It's said that the Sacred Tower contains the most ancient inheritance of Spirit Array Masters. Moreover, the Sacred Tower can control the flow of time. Cultivating in the Sacred Tower for a month is equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for a year. Naturally, countless Spirit Array Masters will go crazy over it." "So that's how it is." Lin Feng nodded. He hadn't heard about the 3000 Continents tournament from Morong Baichuan, but with Lin Feng's ability, he wouldn't participate in the tournament like the other Spirit Array Masters. With his status, ability, and status in the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters, he could even become the chief examiner of the tournament. The Elder of the Mercenary Union continued, "If you want to go to the Central Union of Spirit Array Masters, the nearest space-time wormhole is in the northwest of Jiangbei City. It will take you more than a month to reach there." Lin Feng nodded and left the Mercenary Union. At this moment, night had already fallen. Lin Feng rented a courtyard and planned to rest for 3 days before leaving. The moon was bright as he sat in the courtyard and drank alone. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard in the distance. Chapter 12:28. A figure landed in the courtyard as fast as lightning. It was an extremely beautiful woman. Her clothes were stained with blood, and her face was as pale as paper. After landing, she made a shu gesture at Lin Feng, then hid in a dark corner of the courtyard. It was her, the princess of immortal ancient country, Gu Yuru. Obviously, Gu Yuru did not recognize him, the cultivator who had broken out with her. However, it was normal when he thought about it. It had been so chaotic back then, and there had been so many people. Gu Yuru, who had suffered so many heavy blows, was in a state of grief. How could she have been in the mood to observe the wandering cultivators around her? It's rumored that the elders who had escorted Gu Yuru had all died tragically. Only Gu Yuru managed to escape. It seems like the rumors are true. Even Gu Yuru's current situation is not good. Her face is as pale as paper, and her breathing is chaotic. It's obvious that she has suffered serious injuries. Lin Feng could not help but ponder. He must be hiding in the surroundings. "Search for him," a cultivator shouted. "Fresh blood. There's fresh blood here. It's this courtyard." Soon, the cultivators who had chased after them discovered the fresh blood on the ground. Gu Yuru, who was hiding in a dark corner, became even paler. Bang. Then, the door was kicked into pieces. A group of 10 cultivators rushed in. There were 2 fire dragon hawks circling in the sky. It was obvious that the fire dragon hawk riders had locked onto this place. The group of people were slightly stunned when they saw Lin Feng drinking alone. Then, the leader of the cultivators waved his hand and said with a cold smile, "Kill him immediately, then search the entire courtyard. Search every nook and cranny carefully. That woman must be here." These people were experts from the 4 great powers. They were all ruthless characters who killed without batting an eyelid. Yes. 2 cultivators immediately rushed towards Lin Feng. "Wait." Suddenly, Gu Yuru's voice came from the corner. Gu Yuru, whose white clothes were stained with blood, walked out. She said, "This matter has nothing to do with him. I accidentally entered his resting place. Let him go, and I'll go with you." Lin Feng was surprised. This Gu Yuru's character was not bad. She could not even protect herself, but she was still considerate of others and did not want to implicate the innocent. "It's you." Suddenly, a cold voice came from the sky. A fiery dragon hawk knight looked coldly at Lin Feng. When Lin Feng was being chased by a fire dragon hawk knight, the other fire dragon hawk knights also saw it. However, they thought that Lin Feng was dead, so they didn't chase after him. But in the end, the fire dragon hawk knight who chased after Lin Feng was killed. Although they didn't know what happened, these fire dragon hawk knights remembered Lin Feng. The dignity of a fiery dragon hawk knight was not to be challenged. Now, many of the fiery dragon hawk knights were rubbing their fists, waiting to meet Lin Feng and then kill Lin Feng, to wash away the shame that Lin Feng brought to the fire dragon hawk knights. He's too dazzling. His light can't be blocked no matter how hard we try. How could he be recognized in this broken place? Lin Feng sighed. The corners of many people's mouths twitched. Many people muttered, "Why is this guy so shameless?" He was actually blowing his own trumpet. Although Gu Yuru didn't recognize Lin Feng, when she heard the Fire Dragon Hawk Knight's words, she couldn't help but think, "This guy seems to have a grudge against a Fire Dragon Hawk Knight." Gu Yuru was very surprised. When she saw the Fire Dragon Hawk Knight gnashing his teeth, he seemed to have a deep hatred for Lin Feng. The cultivator in front of her seemed to be in his 20s. She knew most of the top young cultivators in the Central Plains, but she didn't recognize this guy. This meant that he wasn't one of the top young cultivators in the Central Plains. Gu Yuru didn't know Lin Feng's identity, nor did she know why Lin Feng had a grudge against a fire dragon hawk knight. However, when she saw that Lin Feng was still blowing his own trumpet after being recognized by a fire dragon hawk knight, Gu Yuru felt both angry and amused. This guy was about to be killed by a fire dragon hawk knight, but he didn't seem worried at all. She didn't know if there was something wrong with his brain, or if he really didn't fear death. Gu Yuru couldn't help but think, since this guy is going to die, there's no need for me to be captured by these people just to save him. Since that's the case, I'll just die here with him. It's better than falling into the hands of these people. If I fall into their hands, I don't know how much torture I'll have to endure. Screech. At this moment, a sharp screech came from the sky. 2 fire dragon hawks swooped down at high speed. The 2 fire dragon hawk knights grabbed the chains on the fire dragon hawks. One of them was holding a sword, while the other was holding a spear. They were charging toward Lin Feng. This made Gu Yuru very surprised. Did they really need to mobilize 2 fire dragon hawk knights to deal with an unknown young cultivator? These fire dragon hawk knights were ancient giants of the life and death realm. Their cultivation bases were unfathomable. When the fire dragon hawk knights attacked together with their fire dragon hawks, the destructive power was incomparably terrifying. That brat actually attracted the 2 lords to attack together. What did he do? What did he do to make the 2 lords so angry? Many people were puzzled. No matter what Lin Feng did, in these people's eyes, Lin Feng was definitely going to die this time. When Gu Yuru saw the 2 fire dragon hawk knights swooping down on their fire dragon hawks, she wanted to help Lin Feng block them. However, this pulled at the wounds on her body, causing her to involuntarily spit out a mouthful of blood. During this period of time, Gu Yuru had been running for her life. She did not even have the time to heal her wounds. She had relied on her willpower to prevent herself from fainting. When Gu Yuru spat out the blood that had accumulated on her chest, she could no longer hold on. She only felt her vision turn black, and her body fell limply to the ground. Lin Feng reacted quickly and pulled Gu Yuru into his embrace. This brat is about to die, and he still has tender feelings for the fairer sex? Many people curled their lips. Die. At this moment, the 2 fire dragon hawk knights had already charged over. The weapons in their hands were all aimed at Lin Feng. You don't know the meaning of death? Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He raised his right hand. A blade light condensed in the void and slashed out. Pooh! Next, a ripping sound was heard. The 2 fire dragon hawk knights, who were ancient giants, did not even have the chance to scream before they were cut in half by Lin Feng, together with their mounts. Run! Hurry up and run! All the cultivators screamed in terror. They were practically scared out of their wits. They had never seen such a terrifying existence. He had killed 2 life and death realm fire dragon hawk knights in an instant. How powerful was his cultivation base to be able to do this? Now, these people only hoped that they could escape. Come together, leave together. You won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. Lin Feng carried Gu Yuru and walked into the distance. Lin Feng took a step forward, freezing the world. The cultivators who were running away were all frozen into ice sculptures. They stood on the spot, not moving at all. Chapter 1229. Yinseng Town. The experts of the 4 superpowers arrived one after another. Outside of Lin Feng's courtyard, many cultivators had already gathered and were whispering to each other. Each of the 4 superpowers had sent a rebirth realm expert. Yin Yang Sect, Song Mingyu. Fortune Gate, Zhang Shunmu. Dao Heaven Sect, Wang Yangzhong. Heaven Shattering Pavilion, Yuan Dong. The 4 rebirth realm experts' expressions were gloomy. Melt the ice and save them, said Song Mingyu. Alchemists were alchemists. Immediately, an alchemist walked out and summoned a flame to melt the ice. Crack, crack. After the flame burned the ice for a while, the layer of ice cracked, and soon, the ice shattered. Even the bodies of the cultivators sealed in the ice were shattered into pieces. Sir, their bodies have been completely frozen. They're already dead, said the alchemist. Song Mingyu nodded. Who is that kid? How is he so powerful? Asked Song Mingyu with a gloomy expression. Brother Song, there's no need to be anxious. The artist is drawing the appearance of that cultivator based on the description given by the courtyard's owner. We'll know who he is soon. Fortune Gates Zhang Shenmu said. Song Mingyu nodded. A quarter of an hour later, a cultivator quickly walked over with a drawn portrait in his hand. Sirs, please take a look. The cultivator unfolded the drawing. The 4 Rebirth Realm experts looked over. It's him. Song Mingyu's eyes lit up. Brother Song, you know him? Who is he? Wang Yangzhong's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but ask. Song Mingyu lowered his voice and said, He's Lin Feng. What? He's that person. Zhang Shunmu, Wang Yangzhong, and Yuan Dong were pleasantly surprised. The 3 of them didn't call out Lin Feng's name, as if they were worried that the walls might be eavesdropping. Seeing Song Mingyu nod, the 3 of them revealed greedy looks. Investigate secretly. We must capture that kid. His divine abilities and wealth are unimaginable. That's right. It's best not to make this matter public. The more people who know about it, the more people will want to get a share of it. Let's form an alliance. No matter who catches that little boy, we'll share his treasures, not take them for ourselves, said Lin Feng. Of course. We'll send our trusted subordinates to search for him. The 4 Rebirth Realm experts quickly came to an agreement. Gu Yuru felt that her body was limp and she was mentally exhausted. She tried her best to open her eyes. Even after trying for a long time, she still couldn't succeed. Soon, endless exhaustion engulfed her. Gu Yuru fainted again. When Gu Yuru woke up, the sky was filled with stars. I'm not dead? Gu Yuru was in disbelief. She clearly remembered that before she fainted, she had been surrounded by the experts of the 4 major forces. That was a situation of certain death. Why didn't he die? He didn't look like he was being imprisoned. What happened? Creak. The door opened and Lin Feng walked in. You're awake. It seems that you're fine. Take this pill, and your body will recover faster. Lin Feng took out a pill and placed it in front of the bed. We're not dead. Gu Yuru sat up and asked in disbelief. Lin Feng nodded and said, Of course not. If we were dead, why would we still be here talking? At that moment, Gu Yuru suddenly realized that her clothes had been changed into clean ones. Her face immediately turned red. Your clothes were stained with blood. I asked the aunties in this house to change your clothes and treat your wounds. You don't have to worry. Lin Feng said. Thank you, Gu Yuru said with a red face. She then took the pill that Lin Feng had placed at the bedside and swallowed it. As the pill's effect spread, Gu Yuru felt much more comfortable. Her face also regained some color. Rest for a few days and your body will recover by 60 to 70%. After a few more months, your injured meridians will be completely healed. Let's part ways here. Lin Feng said. Young master, please wait. Gu Yuru called out. Lin Feng said helplessly. Is there anything else? She said leisurely, If my guess is correct, you must have saved Yuru. I'm indebted to you for saving my life. But may I know your name? Can you tell me? Lin Feng said, We met by chance, and we might not meet again in the future. Why bother? Gu Yuru asked, Have we met before? In a mortal ancient country. Lin Feng raised his brows slightly and asked, Why do you ask? Since you were able to save Yuru from the encirclement of so many experts, you should know how powerful you are. In the central continent, Yuru knows many geniuses of your age, but I don't know you. The fiery Dragonhawk Knights hate you so much that they haven't come out for 100 years. Thus, the only possibility that you might have formed a grudge with them is in a mortal ancient country's capital. I suddenly recalled that back then, 700 to 800 independent cultivators were chased by the fiery Dragonhawk Knights. You might have been one of them, but you were powerful enough to kill the fiery Dragonhawk Knights. Is Yuru's guess correct? Gu Yuru looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng nodded and said, I have to say that you are very meticulous and intelligent. You were actually able to connect so many things together, and your guess is basically correct. Gu Yuru stood up and bowed slightly to Lin Feng. May I know your name now? Lin Feng. Gu Yuru was shocked and said, I've heard so much about you. Lin Feng replied, You have an undeserved reputation. Let's part ways here. Gu Yuru said, Sir, Yura has a presumptuous request. Since it's a presumptuous request, don't mention it. I don't want to cause any more trouble for myself. Lin Feng said. Sir, can you bear to see Yuru die tragically at the hands of the four great powers? Guyuru said with tears in her eyes. Aren't you fine now? As long as you're careful, you can definitely avoid this calamity. Lin Feng said. Guyuru asked, Sir, have you heard of the 9 orifices stone man viewing the heavenly book? Lin Feng immediately stopped and said, the four great powers destroyed a mortal ancient country because of this 9 orifices stone man, right? That's right. Guyuru nodded. Her expression was somewhat sad, as if she was thinking about her loved ones who had died because of this. Guyuru paused for a moment before continuing. As long as you agree to escort me to a certain place, I can allow you to view the 9 orifices stone man. The 9 orifices stone man is from the stone race, and the stone race is still in the process of being nurtured. What's there to view? Lin Feng shrugged. The heavenly book in the 9 orifices stone man's possession contains a huge secret, Guyuru said. All right, deal. Chapter 1230. This was an ancient mountain village, and it was also where Lin Feng and Guyuru were resting for the time being. There were around 300 to 400 villagers in the village. The village was very quiet, and very few people came here. The villagers were very simple and warm, and they were very hospitable. Not far away, there was a mountain temple, and the villagers would go there every day to worship, praying that everyone would be safe and sound, and that the village's hunting team would return safely. Perhaps this is what faith is. Lin Feng and Guyuru stood at the entrance of the village, looking at the villagers kneeling in front of the mountain temple. Most of the time, only those with faith will have love. Without faith, there will be no restrictions, and they will become very terrifying. They can even kill people like flies. Guyuru's eyes were filled with hatred. Guyuru was obviously implying something. The cultivators of the four great powers did not have faith. They believed that strength could control everything. Because they did not have faith, they were not bound by any restrictions. They could kill the innocent or even destroy an entire country without any psychological burden. Lin Feng said, faith is something that exists if you believe it, and it doesn't exist if you don't. He paused, looked at Guyuru's beautiful face, and said, Now, can you tell me where you want to go? I want to go to the Chen family. Guyuru said, What kind of family is that? I've never heard of it. Lin Feng said, It's a hidden family that rarely comes out. Most people don't know much about the Chen family, but their strength is definitely terrifying. Guyuru said. Lin Feng thought of some legends. It was said that there were some hidden families in the Tianwu continent, and some of them were extremely powerful. They could even contend with the Jiang family and the four ancient empires. Now that he heard from Guyuru that there was a hidden clan like the Primeval Chen clan, it seemed that the rumors about hidden clans were not groundless, but real. Is the Qin family related to your immortal ancient country? Lin Feng asked. My mother was the daughter of the second elder of the Chen family. Guyuru said sadly. Her mother had died tragically in that battle. Thinking about what had happened that day, Guyuru was still very sad. Lin Feng said, In that case, the Qin family can be considered your grandfather's and grandmother's family. In terms of bloodline, you can be considered a direct descendant of the Qin family. It's indeed a good place to go. At night, Guyuru took out the 9 orifice stone man. The 9 orifice stone golem was about 2 meters tall and had 9 orifices. Now, the 9 orifices were spewing out the essence of the sun and moon. The 9 orifice man was holding a heavenly book. This was a wordless heavenly book made of stone. There were 3 divine runes on it, which seemed to be the divine runes of the heavenly Tao. If a cultivator looked at it carefully, they would have a splitting headache. Lin Feng looked at the 9 orifice stone man in astonishment. It was truly astonishing, because it had a powerful life force. It meant that it was still alive, and was in the process of being nurtured. No wonder the 4 great powers had not hesitated to destroy immortal ancient country. It was too astonishing. If it could be nurtured successfully, it might become a great emperor in the future. Of course, the 9 orifice stone man wasn't the only thing that was astonishing. The heavenly book in its hand was definitely hiding a great secret. The 3 heavenly Tao imprints were too extraordinary. Lin Feng found it difficult to comprehend their mysteries. I've heard that you're called the Little Stone Saint. You have an extraordinary understanding of stones. This nine-orifice stone man. What do you think? Guyuru looked at Lin Feng and asked. The great Tao is flawed when a stone race is nurtured. So, the chances of a stone race being nurtured are extremely low. Even if a stone race is nurtured, it will be a low-level one. The higher the level, the more difficult it is to nurture one. In the dazzling immemorial era, a high-level stone race was able to nurture a sacred battle ape. Lin Feng said slowly, let's go back a little further. It's been billions of years since the immemorial era ended. Have you heard of a stone race being nurtured that is as powerful as a sacred battle ape? Famous throughout history? Guyuru shook her head. I've never heard of such a thing. Why is that? Lin Feng said, the reason is what I just said. The great Tao is flawed. Guyuru asked doubtfully, what do you mean by that? Lin Feng explained, the stone race, especially the high-level stone race, is too heaven-defying. That's why their great Tao is incomplete when they're nurtured. It's like a human giving birth to a child, but the child dies as soon as it's born. That's called premature death. The stone race is nurtured by nature. If their great Tao is incomplete, it's like a woman giving birth to a baby after 10 months of pregnancy, but the baby dies prematurely. That's why it's so difficult for a stone race to be nurtured. Pausing for a moment, Lin Feng pointed at the nine-orifice stone man's wordless heavenly book and said, right now, this stone man is holding the wordless heavenly book, and there are 3 divine imprints on it. Those are the divine imprints of the heavenly Tao, called the Great Tao of Mending Imperfections. They correspond to the Great Tao of Imperfections. Guyuru's eyes lit up. The Great Tao of Imperfections? The nine-orifice stone man is using the wordless heavenly book to mend the Great Tao of Imperfections, just like a child learning how to read, learning from nothing. The wordless heavenly book in the nine-orifice stone man's hand is also used to mend its own imperfections. Does that mean that the nine-orifice stone man can be nurtured successfully? Lin Feng said, I'm not sure if it can be nurtured successfully, but the chances of success will be greatly increased. Guyuru nodded and said, you stay here and study the nine-orifice stone man. I'm going to rest. Lin Feng smiled. Aren't you afraid that I'll take your stone man and leave? Guyuru replied, I don't think you're that kind of person. As soon as she finished speaking, she returned to her room. I never thought that I would be so charismatic. Lin Feng rubbed his chin. He sat down cross-legged and took out the 9-colored illusory stone to study the 3 divine marks on the wordless heavenly book. However, no matter how hard Lin Feng tried, he couldn't comprehend the secrets of the wordless heavenly book. Lin Feng was a bit discouraged, but also a bit helpless. When dawn was about to break, Lin Feng shook his head. He decided to give up. There was no way he could comprehend the secrets of the wordless heavenly book. At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out in Lin Feng's mind. It's not impossible to comprehend the secrets of the wordless heavenly book. Do you want to make a deal with me? It's you. When he heard the voice, Lin Feng was astonished. The person who had spoken to him was the Holy Spirit that Lin Feng had sealed in Holy Stone City. It can also steal the life force of various stones, right? Said the little stone king. You're quite smart. You guessed it right away. Lin Feng laughed and said, let's make another deal, shall we? I want to learn the complete stone embryo scripture. I can give you anything you want. What do you think? Sneered the little stone king. Do you think I want something from you? If the stone royal clan finds out about it, they'll cripple me, and you'll also die. Lin Feng frowned. That's right. You've learned the stone embryo scripture from the stone royal clan, so you'll die. Stone King clan? You're from the Stone King clan? What kind of clan is that? Asked Lin Feng curiously. That clan has killed a few great emperors. I won't tell you more, said the little Stone King. Hiss. Lin Feng couldn't help but gasp. This was too shocking. The Stone King clan could actually kill great emperors. How heaven-defying was that? Lin Feng knew that he couldn't ask any more questions. Even if he did, the little Stone King wouldn't tell him anything. Even if the little Stone King dared to tell him, Lin Feng wouldn't dare listen anymore. Hearing things that he shouldn't have heard could lead to a fatal disaster. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Lin Feng started comprehending the stone embryo scripture. For 3 days, Lin Feng was in seclusion, studying the stone embryo scripture. "When are we leaving?" asked Gu Yuru. She wanted to go to the immemorial Chen clan, but Lin Feng didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. She had no choice but to ask. "Soon," said Lin Feng. On the 5th day, Lin Feng's room was filled with laughter. "Yuru, lend me the 9 orifices stone man for a night," said Lin Feng. "Didn't you fail to comprehend the secrets within? You still want to try?" asked Gu Yuru. Said Lin Feng. "I want to hug it and sleep. Maybe I'll be able to comprehend some things." Shameless. Gu Yuru blushed and couldn't help but spit at Lin Feng. She then took out the 9 orifices stone man. Lin Feng put the 9 orifices stone man on his shoulder and walked outside. "Be careful, don't destroy it," reminded Gu Yuru. She was really worried that Lin Feng would destroy the 9 orifices stone man. "Don't worry, I'll return it to you in perfect condition," said Lin Feng as he walked out. Night fell. The 9 orifices stone man spat out the essence of the sun and moon. Lin Feng circulated the stone embryo scripture. Gradually, Lin Feng really felt the 9 orifices stone man's emotions. It was a spiritual fluctuation that was extremely thirsty. It was a thirst for the 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints. Lin Feng circulated the stone embryo scripture to steal the 9 orifices stone man's memories. The 9 orifices stone man's memories were blank. The only thing it remembered was the 3 blurry heavenly Tao divine imprints. The 9 orifices stone man had comprehended them after observing the wordless heavenly book for 380 million years. Lin Feng was shocked. This 9 orifices stone man was truly heaven-defying. It had been nurtured for 380 million years, and it still hadn't succeeded. If it succeeded, how heaven-defying would it be? It would probably be a second sacred battle ape. Lin Feng successfully stole the 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints from the 9 orifices stone man's memories. He carefully sensed the 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints. When Lin Feng's spiritual will fused with the 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints, he sensed 3 different powers from the 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints. The first power was like the replay of his previous life. The second power was like the various powers of his current life. The third power was like the replay of the future, the past, the present, the future. These 3 heavenly Tao divine imprints were imprinted with these 3 terrifying powers. Lin Feng's heart trembled. He couldn't believe it. This was too heaven-defying. If he could control the past, present, and future powers, how heaven-defying would that be? Would he be able to bury the gods? Bury the emperor? Bury the universe? Bury the endless worlds? Chapter 1232. Buddhism had the past, present, and future. They were Dipankara, Tathagata, and Maitreya. These 3 ancient Buddhas were in charge of the legendary Western Buddhist realm. Dipankara controlled the power of the past, Tathagata controlled the power of the present, and Maitreya controlled the power of the future. There was a saying that 10,000 years was too long. Seize every moment. Whether it was the present or the future, it was fleeting for cultivators. Now, the struggle of the present was the life of a cultivator. Therefore, in Buddhism, Tathagata, who controlled the power of the present, suppressed Dipankara and Maitreya, becoming the ancestor of Buddhism. Dipankara, Tathagata, and Maitreya. Any one of the 3 ancient Buddhas could kill a great emperor. They had only grasped one of the 3 powers of the past, present, and future, yet they already possessed such terrifying strength. The memories Lin Feng stole from the 9 orifices stone man contained the past, present, and future. If he could completely control these 3 powers, it would be too terrifying. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that it wasn't easy to understand the 3 celestial Tao godly marks in his brain and control the strength of the past, present, and future. However, no matter how difficult it was, Lin Feng would continue to comprehend them. Even if he couldn't comprehend the mysteries, Lin Feng wouldn't lose anything. However, if Lin Feng could comprehend the past, present, and future heavenly Tao divine runes, that would be terrifying. With 3 kinds of celestial Tao godly marks, Lin Feng might be able to kill gods even before he became a god. Even before he became a great emperor, he might be able to defy the heavens and kill great emperors. Of course, this was only Lin Feng's speculation. Anything was possible. It seems like you've comprehended the mysteries within. Now, it's time to fulfill your promise. Little Stone King transmitted his voice to Lin Feng. Whoosh! Lin Feng waved his right hand and summoned Little Stone King, who was suppressed in the four vicious cauldron, out by Lin Feng. He broke the seal on Little Stone King's body. Lin Feng then asked, "Since you are from the Stone King clan, the Stone King clan should not be on the Martial Heaven continent. Why are you here?" Little Stone remained silent for a moment before saying, "Don't ever underestimate the continent of the Celestial Martial Continent. The continent of the Celestial Martial Continent is the most terrifying secret in the universe." Lin Feng frowned as he pondered over Little Stone King's words. "Let me give you a free reminder. The world is about to change. Hurry up and improve your strength. When the world changes, if you still have your current strength, it won't be easy for you to live a dignified life like a normal person." After Little Stone King finished speaking, he soared into the sky and flew into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. "What's the rush?" Lin Feng could not help but exclaim in a somewhat speechless manner. He also wanted to ask Little Stone King what he meant by, "The world is about to change." But now that Little Stone King had left in a hurry, Lin Feng could not ask him anymore. "This Little Stone King knows a lot of things that I don't." Lin Feng shook his head and sat down cross-legged. He began to comprehend the heavenly Tao divine imprints that recorded the past, present, and future abilities. The next day, early in the morning, Lin Feng returned the 9 orifices stone man to Gu Yuru. "How was it?" asked Gu Yuru. Lin Feng sighed and said, "What could I possibly gain?" Gu Yuru said, "It's fine. Maybe you'll gain something after a few more days." "Forget it. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's leave today," said Lin Feng. Gu Yuru looked at Lin Feng suspiciously. Even though she had only known Lin Feng for a short time, she felt that she had a good eye for people. From her point of view, Lin Feng was definitely not someone who would give up easily. But now, Lin Feng had given up on the 9 orifices stone man. Could it be that he had comprehended the wordless heavenly book's secret? Thinking of this, Gu Yuru's heart was in turmoil. The 9 orifices stone man had been in a mortal ancient country for hundreds of years, but no one had been able to comprehend its mysteries. But Lin Feng had managed to comprehend it in just a few days. This was too heaven-defying. However, Gu Yuru did not show it. She said without batting an eyelid, "All right, let's say goodbye to the villagers and leave." Lin Feng nodded. The two of them bid farewell to the villagers. These villagers were very simple and kind. They had taken good care of Lin Feng and Gu Yuru over the past few days, which made them feel very touched. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru each left a Tao artifact for the village chief, which could be of great use at crucial moments. After leaving behind many spirit stones, some cultivation techniques, and divine abilities, Lin Feng and Gu Yuru left. The immemorial Chen family was also located in the central continent. In the following month, Lin Feng and Gu Yuru leisurely went to many places and took a teleportation array to the immemorial Chen family's hidden place. The ancient dragon forest was the immemorial Chen family's hidden place. This ancient dragon forest was a forbidden area in the central continent. This was because there were huge dragons living in the forest. There was no need to say much about the strength of the huge dragon tribe. The huge dragon tribe had a very strong concept of territory. They would mercilessly devour any cultivators who dared to casually enter the ancient dragon forest. Therefore, no cultivators dared to casually enter the ancient dragon forest. What the world did not know was that in the dangerous ancient dragon forest, there was a strong and ancient power that had become neighbors with the overlord of the ancient dragon forest, the huge dragon tribe. This power was the immemorial Chen family. This endless ancient forest is the famous ancient dragon forest. It stretches for 7.65 million kilometers. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru arrived at the outer region of the ancient dragon forest. The surface area of the ancient dragon forest was simply too huge. Lin Feng was speechless. The two of them did not stop at the outer region. They directly entered the ancient dragon forest. The ancient dragon forest was eerie and terrifying. The roars of beasts could be heard everywhere. Powerful beasts could be seen at intervals. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru carefully moved forward. 3 days later, Lin Feng and Gu Yuru were ambushed. When they were passing through a dense forest, the array around them flashed and sealed the area. The area within a radius of 5 to 6 miles was completely sealed. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru were trapped in the array. Soon after, shouts of killing could be heard. Densely packed cultivators rushed over from afar. There were at least 1,000 of them. The most despairing thing was that there were destructive auras coming from all 4 directions. After sensing the 4 auras, Lin Feng's face changed. For rebirth state experts, we're dead for sure. Gu Yuru's face turned as white as a sheet. Lin Feng, you little brat, it's time for you to die. A cold voice came from the south. Song Mingyu looked at Lin Feng with a murderous expression. Since the beginning of time, there have been countless geniuses who died before they could even reach their full potential. Today, the Forest of Dragons will be the place where you die. Zhang Shenmu, Wang Yangzhong, and Yu Wendong also walked over. They looked at Lin Feng as if he was a dead man. Chapter 1233. The current situation was not good for Lin Feng and Gu Yuru. The array was locked down, and the experts were surrounding them. If they were not careful, they would die. The 4 Rebirth Realm experts were closing in and were about to completely surround Lin Feng and Gu Yuru. Ha ha ha, you want to catch me? You are too naive. At this moment, Lin Feng laughed out loud. Gu Yuru admired Lin Feng more and more. What kind of situation was this? How could he still laugh? Didn't he see that they were in imminent danger? Excuse me, Lin Feng said softly. Then, he hugged Gu Yuru's waist. Because the weather was hot, Gu Yuru was only covered by a thin veil. It was as if there was nothing there. Lin Feng could feel the flatness of Gu Yuru's stomach. She really did not have any excess flesh. Gu Yuru blushed slightly, but she knew that Lin Feng was not trying to take advantage of her. If he really wanted to take advantage of her, he would have done it when she was seriously injured and fainted. Not to mention just hugging her waist. What could Lin Feng not do to her? At that time, she was still at Lin Feng's mercy. However, Lin Feng did not take advantage of her then. How could he take advantage of her now? Whoosh! Lin Feng hugged Gu Yuru's waist and quickly rushed into the distance. He wanted to leave this place before the 4 Reincarnation Realm experts surrounded him. If he waited until the 4 Rebirth Realm experts surrounded him, he would not be able to escape even if he wanted to. Activate the array and trap him. The 4 Rebirth Realm experts shouted in a deep voice. Boom, 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 boom. Immediately, the array was activated. Terrifying array runes swept through the void and attacked Lin Feng. Array splitting technique. Lin Feng used the inheritance of the Heavenly Master. The deployment spell around Lin Feng broke apart, but it didn't cause any harm to him. Unless the other party had a Sage-level Spirit Array Master. Otherwise, they would not be able to cause any trouble for Lin Feng. Gu Yuru was shocked. Such a powerful formation must have been deliberately arranged by the 4 major forces, but now it was broken by Lin Feng. Was this the inheritance of the Celestial Master Taoism? It was said that the inheritance of the Celestial Master Taoism was unparalleled in the world. Looking at it now, it was indeed true. Stop him! The 4 experts roared angrily and began to prepare their attacks. Attack! The experts of the 4 major forces who were gathering together shouted loudly and began to attack Lin Feng. There were only 4 Rebirth Realm experts. Their numbers were too few, and they occupied 4 positions. Therefore, they were unable to surround Lin Feng. However, there were over 1,000 cultivators there, and they had long since surrounded the place. Facing the attacks from the cultivators, Lin Feng brought out the 4 ferocious cauldron and entered it together with Gu Yuru. Then, the 2 of them activated the 4 vicious cauldrons together. The 4 vicious cauldrons whistled through the air. Clang, clang, clang. Terrifying attacks bombarded the cauldron one after another. All the attacks were blocked by the cauldrons. Then, the 4 vicious cauldrons rushed into the crowd. Bang, bang, bang. Following the violent collisions, one cultivator after another was sent flying by the cauldrons. The moment the cauldrons charged forward, the force of impact was way too strong. All the cultivators who were struck by the cauldrons were smashed to death. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru controlled the 4 vicious cauldrons to break through the encirclement and dashed into the distance. The attacks from the 4 Rebirth Realm experts came crashing down. However, in the end, they could not even touch the 4 vicious cauldrons. Chase. The faces of the 4 Rebirth Realm experts were extremely gloomy. They had set up an inescapable net and even set up such a powerful array. Yet, they could not catch Lin Feng and Gu Yuru. This was like a slap to their faces. Everyone chased after Lin Feng and Gu Yuru. However, Lin Feng's speed was simply too fast. He brought Gu Yuru along and dashed into the depths. Roar. 3 days later, Lin Feng and Gu Yuru were attacked by a colossal dragon. This was a colossal creature that was hundreds of meters long. It had wings and looked like a gigantic lizard. Its hind limbs were thick and its front limbs were short. It could spit out lightning attacks. This colossal dragon was exceptionally terrifying. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru were sent flying by the tail of the colossal dragon. They could not help but cough out a mouthful of blood. Soon, another 6 to 7 colossal dragons charged over from afar. Many of them seemed to want a share of the loot. Colossal dragons loved powerful bloodlines. Devouring powerful bloodlines would allow the power of their bloodlines to increase continuously. Lin Feng's bloodline was simply too powerful. These colossal dragons had sharp senses. That was why the colossal dragons in the surroundings had come to surround them. However, the colossal dragon that first discovered Lin Feng roared furiously at the other colossal dragons. Although they could not understand the meaning behind the roar, they could guess that it was probably warning the other colossal dragons to leave quickly and not have any ideas about Lin Feng. Clearly, the colossal dragon that first discovered Lin Feng wanted to take all of Lin Feng's bloodline for himself. The other colossal dragons did not buy it. They roared as well. These colossal dragons did not live together. Each of them had their own territory. Usually, they lived in peace. However, once there was a conflict of interest, they would fight amongst themselves. Lin Feng took the opportunity when these colossal dragons were fighting amongst themselves. He brought Gu Yuru and dashed into the distance. In an instant, they had shaken off the 7 colossal dragons. The 7 colossal dragons roared furiously and chased after them. We've reached the colossal dragon's territory. Song Mingyu's expression was grim. Even they did not want to enter the colossal dragon's territory so easily. They had no problem dealing with ordinary colossal dragons, but if they encountered the overlords of the colossal dragon's territory, even an ordinary rebirth realm cultivator would die. Look, there are 7 colossal dragons roaring in the distance. Could it be that they're chasing Lin Feng and Gu Yuru? Said Zhang Xinmu in a low voice. Let's go and take a look. But everyone, be careful, said Yuan Dong. Everyone, be careful, said Yuan Dong. The strong cultivators of the 4 groups chased after them, but after 100 miles, they sensed that something was wrong. The forest was too quiet. There was no sound at all. There were no sounds of insects or birds. Could it be? The hearts of the 4 Rebirth Realm cultivators suddenly jumped as they thought of a possibility. Boom, boom, boom. In the next instant, an earth-shattering attack emerged from the forest and headed towards them. More than 30 colossal dragons rushed out of their hiding places and floated in the air. They flapped their wings and spat out lightning attacks, dragon breath attacks, draconic incantations, and all sorts of other attacks towards the strong cultivators of the 4 groups. Not good. We've been surrounded by the dragons. Break out. The faces of the 4 Rebirth Realm cultivators changed drastically. They immediately led their people to break out of the encirclement. However, the attacks of the dragon race were simply too powerful. When all kinds of attacks came crashing down, miserable shrieks rang out one after another. Many of the experts from the 4 major forces were killed in an instant. Their blood dyed the sky of the forest of dragons red. Chapter 1234. The 7 gigantic dragons chased after Lin Feng and Gu Yuru, releasing all sorts of attacks at the same time. Luckily, Lin Feng was fast enough to dodge the dragon's attacks one after another. After running for 3 days and 3 nights, Lin Feng and Gu Yuru entered an ancient forest. This forest was covered with a large array. After the 7 giant dragons arrived, they did not casually advance. Instead, They let out low roars and left unwillingly. Lin Feng and Gu Yuru heaved a sigh of relief after entering the large array. They were finally safe for the time being. Is this the immemorial Chen family's secret place? Lin Feng asked. Gu Yuru nodded and said, this is the outermost region. However, I'm guessing that they have already discovered us. I reckon that there will be people coming here soon. Come with me to rest for a few days before leaving. Lin Feng said, no need. I still have things to do. It's not convenient for me to stay. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard from afar. It must be the immemorial Chen family's cultivators. Lin Feng did not want to meet them, so he quickly flew in another direction. How cautious! Gu Yuru snorted. Lin Feng was even more careful when he left. He avoided a few giant dragons that came out to hunt for food. Finally, he came out of the giant dragon forest. After leaving the giant dragon forest, Lin Feng flew towards the northwest. That was the direction to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. The Temple of Spiritual Array Masters was the holy land in the hearts of countless spiritual array masters. Before he obtained the inheritance of the Celestial Master Path, Lin Feng also yearned for the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. This was because the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters had the inheritance of ancient arrays. He could receive the best inheritance of spiritual array masters. However, after obtaining the inheritance of the Celestial Master Path, Lin Feng did not care about the ancient inheritances in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. Now, the only thing that Lin Feng was interested in was the sacred tower of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. It was the sacred embryo that could change the flow of time. In other words, a month in the outside world was equivalent to a year in the sacred tower. 1 year in the outside world was equivalent to 12 years in the sacred tower. If he could enter the sacred tower to cultivate, his cultivation would naturally increase greatly in a short period of time. 10 days later, Lin Feng arrived at a place called Aeon City. There were no space-time wormholes here, only ordinary teleportation arrays. In truth, even in the central region of the Sky Martial continent, there were very few wormholes. Only some top-grade ancient cities would build space-time wormholes because it was too difficult to build one. Lin Feng planned to take the transmission array to one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the central continent, the Great Eastern Ancient Capital. The Great Eastern Ancient Capital had a space-time wormhole that could directly teleport one to the temple city where the Spirit Array Master Temple was located. When Lin Feng entered the teleportation array, four terrifying auras instantly enveloped the entire teleportation plaza. 4 terrifying auras sealed Lin Feng. Song Mingyu, Zhang Shanmu, Wang Yangzhong, and Yuan Dong stepped out, their killing intent soaring to the sky. Let's see how you escape today. The voices of the 4 powerhouses were ice-cold, filled with endless killing intent. Heavens, for Rebirth Realm experts. Who is that kid? Why is he being targeted by 4 Rebirth Realm experts? Many people looked suspiciously at Lin Feng, who was being targeted by 4 Rebirth Realm experts. They were all astonished. He was just a junior. Why would 4 Rebirth Realm experts attack him together? This was simply too inconceivable. However, such an inconceivable thing was indeed true. Song Mingyu, Zhang Shanmu, Wang Yangzhong, and Yuan Dong. Aren't they in charge of encircling the people who escaped from the immortal ancient nation? Is that kid from the immortal ancient nation? That's possible. Maybe he's a prince from the immortal ancient nation? No, the princes of the immortal ancient nation have all been killed. It's possible that he's a prince from one of the immortal ancient nation's princes. No matter who he is, now that he's surrounded by 4 experts, he's definitely going to die. Many people were discussing this spiritedly. As far as they were concerned, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. It's him. Some people in Aeon City recognized Lin Feng. They were very surprised, but then they sneered. Too strong and too many treasures. Seems like it's not a good thing. That cultivator sneered. Brother Qi, what are you mumbling about? Asked that cultivator's friend. Nothing, just watching the show. Brother Qi, do you know the person surrounded by 4 experts? Is he really the prince of the immortal ancient nation? Asked someone. The cultivator surnamed Qi was called Qi Wei. He had seen Lin Feng in the Battle of Geniuses, so he knew who Lin Feng was. When he heard his friend's question, he said, "That's Lin Feng? He's that Lin Feng?" Chi Wei's friend was astonished. Then, one of them said gloatingly, "There are so many geniuses in the world. How many of them turn into skeletons before they can grow up? This Lin Feng's talent is heaven-defying, but he's probably going to follow in the footsteps of those geniuses. He's going to be killed before he can even become an overlord." In the teleportation plaza, Lin Feng's expression was extremely gloomy. He had actually been blocked by these 4 people. This was going to be troublesome. However, Lin Feng wasn't without a way to deal with them. Chapter 1235. The palace shuttled through the air. This treasure was not simple at all. It was magnificent and beautiful. These beautiful women were all servants. They were all beautiful and alluring. Moreover, they wore revealing clothes. When they saw Lin Feng, their gazes became frivolous, as if they were deliberately trying to seduce Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng turned a blind eye to them. It was as if he was walking through a field of flowers, but not a single leaf touched him. "Lin Gongzi, our madam is already waiting for you in the inner hall." A tall and charming woman wearing only a transparent veil walked over. Her body emitted a faint fragrance. It was unknown if it was the fragrance that was spread on her body, or if it was the fragrance from her body. Lin Feng nodded and said, "Fairy, please lead the way." "Hee, I'm not a fairy. I'm just a servant," the tall and charming woman said with a smile. She led the way in front, her slender waist swaying back and forth. Even the way she walked was filled with seduction. There were women everywhere in this palace, and they were all beauties. However, Lin Feng was the only man. However, Lin Feng vaguely had the urge to escape this palace. He felt that this cave of beauties was a hero's grave. He really should not continue to stay here. However, when he thought about how the other party had helped him, even if he had to leave, he should at least say thank you. That was why Lin Feng did not immediately leave. There were many palaces, and there were at least 10 beauties shuttling back and forth in each palace. The beauties looked at Lin Feng with passionate, bold, and fiery gazes. Compared to the conservative female cultivators outside, the women here were a bit too open. It was obvious that they were teasing him. This made Lin Feng secretly raise his guard. Under the guidance of the tall and charming woman, Lin Feng entered a palace. Inside the palace, there was a beautiful woman wearing a pink veil. She was filled with an alluring aura as she lay on a white jade bed. When she saw Lin Feng arrive, she walked down barefoot. "I never thought that I would meet Lin Gongzi here." The beautiful woman's bewitching eyes looked at Lin Feng as she walked over step by step. "I never thought that I would see you here, Madam Chi." Lin Feng cupped his fists. This beautiful woman wearing a pink chiffon dress was the owner of Desire Island, Madam Chi. It was widely rumored that she was a promiscuous woman who had slept with countless men. When Lin Feng was at the #1 cultivator gathering area in the East Sea, he saw Yang Buping and Hua Qianlai fighting fiercely in order to have a night with Madam Chi. In the end, Hua Qianlai won and entered Madam Chi's carriage. They did it in broad daylight without any scruples. Of course, Lin Feng didn't have any special feelings for Madam Chi. How a woman chose to live her life was her freedom. Lin Feng was not a sanctimonious gentleman, so he would not accuse Madam Chi of being immoral and promiscuous. In fact, before this, Madam Chi was just a stranger to Lin Feng. Madam Chi said, "Don't you think that we are fated to meet?" Madam Chi walked over to Lin Feng's side and stretched out her hand, gently caressing Lin Feng's chest. However, Lin Feng avoided her touch. Lin Feng wouldn't accuse Madam Chi of doing such things. However, Lin Feng didn't want to have any physical contact with a woman like Madam Chi. If it was just chatting or talking about cooperation, it wouldn't be a problem. As for other things, Lin Feng definitely wouldn't allow intimate relations between a man and a woman. Although Lin Feng wasn't obsessed with cleanliness, he still couldn't accept a woman who had slept with countless men. Madam Chi smiled. "You're really sensitive, young master," Lin Feng said. "It's just that men and women shouldn't touch each other, and I already have a lover, so I've always kept myself clean. I definitely can't betray the person I love." After giving this reason, Lin Feng couldn't help but admire himself for being so quick-witted. This reason was really perfect and impeccable. Madam Chi smiled and said, Do you think I don't understand men like you? You say one thing, but you do another behind my back. Many men say that they are loyal to love, but in reality, they have countless women behind their backs. Lin Gongzi, don't you think I'm right? Lin Feng didn't plan on discussing this matter with Madame Qi, so he said, "Thank you for your help, Madame Qi. I will remember this favor and will definitely repay you in the future. I still have matters to attend to, so I can't stay for long. When we meet again in the future, I will personally invite you to a banquet and properly repay you." Madame Qi said, "Young master, you have matters to attend to, so I shouldn't keep you here. However, before you leave, may I ask you something?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Madam, there's no harm in asking." Madame Qi asked, "Young master, are you going to the Spirit Array Master Temple?" Madame Qi had a lot of power in the Eastern Sea, and she might even have spies in the Eastern Sea's Spirit Array Master Guild. Therefore, Lin Feng wasn't surprised that Madame Qi knew that he was going to the Spirit Array Master Temple. After all, most of the higher-ups in the Eastern Sea's Spirit Array Master Guild knew that he was going to the Spirit Array Master Temple to meet the four ancestors. Therefore, Lin Feng simply nodded and said, "That's right. I'm going to the Spirit Array Master Temple. What a coincidence. I'm also going to the Spirit Array Master Temple. We're going the same way. Does young master mind going with me?" Madame Qi's seductive eyes looked at Lin Feng. "That doesn't seem very convenient, does it?" Lin Feng said. Madame Qi said, "There's nothing between us. Could it be that young master is afraid of others gossiping? Could it be that young master is worried that you won't be able to control yourself if you're with me?" Lin Feng said with a wry smile, "That's not it. Since we're going the same way, there's no harm in going together. We'll go directly to the Great Eastern Ancient City and take the space-time wormhole," Madame Qi said. "All right." Lin Feng nodded. "Nian, take young master to rest," Madame Qi said. "Yes, madam." The tall and charming woman responded and then said, "Lin Gongzi, please follow this servant." Lin Feng nodded. After bidding farewell to Madame Qi, he followed the servant girl named Nian to a room next to Madame Qi's. Arriving at the room, Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The rooms here were decorated in a pink feminine style. As a man, he was really not used to it. Lin Feng rubbed his nose and said, "Miss Nian, I wonder if you can give me another room. A simpler room would be best." Chu Nian giggled and said, "Young master, we don't have any men here, and this pink style is Madame's favorite style. Therefore, all the rooms in the palace are decorated in this style. Young master can only temporarily make do with it." Lin Feng nodded helplessly. Chu Nian said, "Then this servant won't disturb young master's rest. This servant will take her leave first. If there's anything, young master can call this servant. For the next few days, this servant will take care of young master's life." "Thank you, Miss Nian." Lin Feng thanked her. "Young master, you're too kind." Chu Nian bowed slightly to Lin Feng and then left. At night, Madame Qi set up a banquet and invited Lin Feng to attend. When he arrived at the banquet hall, dozens of dancers were already dancing. All of them were as beautiful as fairies. Any one of these women was a peerless beauty in the world. But now, they had all been taken in by Madame Qi and became her servants. Lin Feng had a feeling that Madame Qi had groomed so many beautiful women for some unspeakable purpose. Chapter 1236. Lin Feng sat down next to Madame Qi. Madame Qi raised her cup and smiled. "This is 100-flower wine brewed from fresh flowers that I personally plucked. Have a taste and see how it tastes." Lin Feng nodded and took a sip. He didn't find anything wrong with the wine, and he wondered to himself, am I overthinking things? In reality, Lin Feng had always been very cautious, as he felt that Madame Qi wasn't a simple person. However, Madame Qi hadn't done anything to the wine, which made Lin Feng feel a little apologetic towards her. After all, she had helped him. Yet, he still doubted Madame Qi. "Good wine." Lin Feng nodded. After spending so much time with the old drunkard, Lin Feng knew a little about wine. This 100-flower wine was mellow and fragrant, and it was indeed a rare wine. Chu Nian knelt next to Lin Feng like an obedient maid and poured a cup for him. She smiled and said, "Lin Gongzi, you're really something." This 100-flower wine was brewed by Madame Chi using hundreds of exotic flowers and 76 precious ingredients. Madame Chi can't even bear to drink it herself, yet she's treating you with it today. Lin Feng replied, Madame Chi is really considerate. I'm ashamed to accept it. Madame Chi smiled and said, good wine should be tasted with like-minded people. Only then will you be able to appreciate its flavor. Madame Chi, are you saying that we're like-minded people? Lin Feng smiled at Madame Chi. In some ways, I think so. Madame Chi smiled. Lin Feng smiled but didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the beautiful dancers. Madame Chi smiled and asked, Lin Gongzi, what do you think of my dancers? Lin Feng nodded and said, whether it's their faces or their dancing skills, they're all first-rate. Madame really knows how to enjoy life. She actually trained so many beautiful dancers. I think that any one of them would be able to become the star of Wanhua Brothel if they went there. Madame Chi smiled and said, it seems that young master is quite familiar with Myriad Flower House. Could it be that young master often goes to Myriad Flower House? Previously, you said that you wanted to keep yourself clean for the sake of your lover. Now, it seems that your words are going to fall apart. Lin Feng replied, I have a friend who's the holy maiden of the Myriad Flower Pavilion. So I've been there a few times. Oh, Myriad Flower Pavilion has 12 holy maidens. May I know which one you're referring to? Madame Chi smiled. Let's not talk about it. Lin Feng said. Madame Chi smiled coquettishly and said, is she a confidant? Is that why you want to keep it a secret? Lin Feng said, that's not it. It's just that I don't think it's good to talk about my friends behind their backs. Madame Chi didn't dwell on this topic. She looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Young master, are you interested in any of my dancers? They're all virgins. If you're interested in any of them, you can take them back and enjoy them to your heart's content. Lin Feng shook his head and said, I don't have such thoughts. You don't have such thoughts because they're not charming enough. Madame Chi smiled and looked at Chu Nianyi, who was kneeling beside Lin Feng and serving him. She said, Nianyi, raise your head. Chu Nianyi didn't dare to go against Madame Chi's words. She raised her head and said, Nianyi has been by my side for many years. She's not inferior to those goddesses outside. Now that she's taking care of you, how about I give Nianyi to you? Hearing Madame Chi's words, Chu Nianyi's delicate body trembled slightly. Lin Feng said, Madam, you're exaggerating. As I said before, I've always been a clean person. If you want to continue talking about women, I can only take my leave. Madame Chi giggled. Madame Chi laughed as she replied, I was just joking with you, sir, so please don't misunderstand. Lin Feng smiled and said, I was overthinking and misunderstood you. I hope you don't blame me. Madame Chi said, then you should punish yourself with 3 cups of wine. All right, I'll punish myself with 3 cups of wine. Lin Feng raised his cup and drank the wine in it. He didn't know how much wine he had drunk that night. He was drowsy. Lin Feng had the feeling that 2 soft bodies were supporting him back to his room. When Lin Feng woke up, he felt as if his head had split open. It was extremely painful. He opened his eyes and looked around in confusion. The room was still a little dim, as it was still night. Lin Feng wanted to get up, but he found that his body was limp, as if he didn't have any strength left. Do you feel sore and powerless now? Madame Chi smiled as she walked in. She was wearing a pink gauze dress, and she directly went to Lin Feng's bed. Lin Feng asked, Did you do something to me? She laid down beside Lin Feng and caressed Lin Feng's face. She smiled and said, How could I bear to do anything to you? Lin Feng grumbled, I can't even move, and you're telling me you didn't do anything to me? Madame Chi looked as if she was about to cry, and she said in an aggrieved tone, You drank too much wine, sir. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to rest well, so I lit some Buddha fat for you. It's refined from the body of a Buddhist monk, and it has the effect of calming the mind and helping you sleep. It can also help a cultivator comprehend the great Tao. A small bottle costs more than 100,000 top-grade spirit stones, and I'm usually reluctant to use it. Now that I've lit something as precious as Buddha fat for you, you're even complaining about it. I'm so sad. Forget it. I won't fall for your tricks. What's wrong with my body? Why can't I move? Lin Feng asked in a low voice. The 100 Flowers wine is a little special. If it comes into contact with the energy from the burning Buddha fat, it will make a cultivator feel weak and powerless. This state will only last for one night, and its main purpose is to help the cultivator sleep well. Don't worry, sir. Since Madam also wants this one to have a good night's sleep, then please leave this one's room as soon as possible. Otherwise, if someone sees this, it won't be good if gossip spreads. Lin Feng said. Ha 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 ha. Madam Chi suddenly laughed. What are you laughing about? Lin Feng asked, puzzled. Young master, do you really think I'm a promiscuous woman? Madam Chi looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng didn't answer because he knew that Madam Chi didn't really want to know his answer. I said before that there are some things that you and I have similar interests in. Does sir still remember? Madam Chi looked at Lin Feng and asked. I still can't figure out what interests you, and I have the same interests. Lin Feng said. Sir, look at the 400 or 500 women in this palace. Which one of them isn't a peerless beauty? Madam Chi said with a smile. Lin Feng looked at Madam Chi in shock and exclaimed, You, like women? You actually have the mirror polishing technique. Chapter 1237. What a good thing to be a man. Grind the mirror. What they meant was that men liked men, and women liked women. In other words, they were homosexual relationships. Lin Feng had never thought that Madam Chi, who was rumored to be promiscuous, would actually be the grind the mirror. Since she was the grind the mirror, the rumors about her couldn't be taken seriously. How could a woman with the grind the mirror possibly have a relationship with a man? It was just like how a normal man would like a woman. If a normal man had an ambiguous relationship with another man, he would probably be disgusted to death. It was even more so for the women of the mirror boundary. Don't even talk about letting them have relations with men. Not to mention having an intimate relationship with a man, they would feel disgusted even if they had some intimate contact with him. That's right. I have the grind the mirror. Are you surprised? Madam Chi looked at Lin Feng proudly. From her point of view, she already had everything under control. Even Lin Feng's life was in her hands. Lin Feng said, Madam Chi, we have no enmity between us in the past. I don't understand why you're scheming against me. Madam Chi straddled Lin Feng's body and placed her hands on the bed. She looked down at Lin Feng and said, Because of lust. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, You like women, not men. Could it be that my charm is so great that a woman with the grind the mirror has developed lust for me? Madam Chi rolled her eyes at Lin Feng and said, Love between a man and a woman is just a type of lust. My lust is supreme power. I want to establish a huge empire, and I will become the empress of that empire. Lin Feng said, It's not easy to satisfy a lust like you. So you're constantly using your beauty to seduce people with status and think of ways to control them, to be used by you? Madam Chi pinched Lin Feng's cheek and said, You're really smart. I like people like you. Please leave my body. Just thinking about a woman with the grind the mirror sitting on me makes me feel like ants are crawling all over my body. Lin Feng said. Madam Chi snorted coldly. Forget it. Other men can't even get such treatment even if they want to. My body is clean, and to men like you, it doesn't matter if a woman has been sharpened or not. She's still a woman. How could you not have any thoughts about a beautiful woman like me sitting on your lap? Tender and delicate? Bah. You really have the nerve to put gold on your face. I think you should be called a snake and scorpion, right? If my guess is correct, you didn't come here for the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, but specifically for me, right? Lin Feng looked at Madam Chi. Madam Chi nodded and said, That's right. I came especially for you. Previously, I invited you, but you refused my invitation, which made me very sad. So I had no choice but to come here personally. For the sake of a young cultivator from a small organization like me, is it worth it? Lin Feng said helplessly. Lin Gongzi, don't you think you're underestimating yourself too much? First of all, your talent is even greater than Murong Tianqian's, so you'll definitely become a god in the future. Now, I'm taking advantage of your youth to control you. In the future, it'll be the same as controlling a god-level powerhouse. Secondly, you're the great elder of the Central Union of Spiritual Array Masters, and you've also inherited the legacy of the Celestial Master Path. As far as I know, The 4 old bastards of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters are already planning to leave the Tianwu continent. Among the successors, you're one of the most favored successors. I think you know better than me just how powerful the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters is. Finally, you're quite likable. If I liked men, I would definitely like a man like you, but unfortunately, I don't like men. But even if I don't like men, I like keeping male slaves, so I plan to train you to be my male slave. You think you have the ability to control me? What a joke. Lin Feng looked at Madame Qi with disdain. Madame Qi smiled as she said, "Of course I have my ways. I've cultivated the great slavery technique, which can forcefully enslave anyone." The great enslavement art was also one of the 3,000 great das, once subdued by the great enslavement technique. Then, in the future, he would never be able to betray the person who enslaved him and would become the other party's slave. In a sense, this great enslavement technique was somewhat similar to Lin Feng's great purification technique. But there were differences. Lin Feng's great purification technique was used to purify people. Once purified, the other party would be severed from their 7 emotions and 6 desires, living like a walking corpse. However, the cultivators enslaved by the great enslavement technique still had their own feelings. Therefore, when comparing the 2 abilities, the great purification technique was naturally more domineering. So that's how it is. Looks like you used the great enslavement art to control many experts. I wonder how many experts you've controlled over the years? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes as he looked at Madame Qi. 5 Rebirth Realm Cultivators, 372 Life and Death Realm Cultivators, 465 Creation Realm Cultivators, and 13,629 Yin-Yang Realm Cultivators. Madame Qi smiled as she spoke. Hiss. Lin Feng couldn't help but gasp. The power that Madame Qi possessed was too terrifying. With this power, they could probably contend against the 4 ancient empires. With this power, you can already establish a huge empire. Lin Feng took a deep breath as he spoke. That's right. I'm also planning to establish a new empire. However, right now, I shouldn't be thinking about establishing a new empire. I should be thinking about making you my male slave. As soon as she finished speaking, Madame Qi's hands started forming seals. She started to condense the great enslavement technique. She planned to enslave Lin Feng and make Lin Feng her female slave. At that moment, Lin Feng, who was originally unable to move, flipped over and pressed Madame Qi, who was condensing the great enslavement technique, under his body. Then, he moved as fast as lightning and tapped Madame Qi's body. Madame Qi's magic power was instantly scattered. Originally, Madame Qi's cultivation was close to the rebirth realm and was unfathomable. Lin Feng might not be her match in a one-on-one fight, but Lin Feng had suddenly attacked and caught Madame Qi off guard. Madame Qi didn't even have time to react before her magic power was scattered, and she became Lin Feng's prisoner. No, this is impossible. Madame Qi couldn't believe what was happening and screamed loudly. Chapter 1238. She had gone from being high up and in control of everything to falling to the bottom of the valley and being captured. Even Madame Qi, who had always been calm and collected, could not accept this extreme contrast, and she could not help but scream in anger. She struggled with all her might, but she had lost all her magic power, so how could she break free? Someone, Madame Qi yelled. However, there was no response from outside. Lin Feng smiled at Madame Qi and said, "Don't waste your time. Even if you scream yourself hoarse, no one will answer you." "You set up a restriction?" Madame Qi's voice trembled slightly. Lin Feng smiled. "At least you're not completely stupid. You." Madame Qi glared fiercely at Lin Feng. If she could, she really wanted to humiliate this detestable man who dared to mock her. However, Madame Qi knew that the current situation was very good for her. She had been restrained by Lin Feng, so she needed to calmly talk to Lin Feng and strive for the best outcome. That was the most important thing right now. After thinking this through, Madame Qi took a deep breath and said, "Lin Gongzi, there's no deep hatred between us. Everything that happened before was just a misunderstanding. I'm willing to make peace with you. As long as you let me go, I'll agree to anything you want." wealth, beauties, divine abilities, treasures. I'll do my best to satisfy you. You want to make peace with me now? What about when you were scheming against me? Lin Feng sneered. Madame Qi immediately looked like she was about to cry as she said, I was wrong, but fortunately, I haven't made a big mistake yet. I hope that you can forgive me this time since I'm just a weak woman. You actually have the nerve to call yourself a weak woman? Aren't you a little too thick-skinned? Lin Feng could not help but pout. Madame Qi gritted her teeth, but she did not dare to show it on her face. She looked pitifully at Lin Feng and said, Sir, please do me a favor and forgive me this time. I can give you a few secrets in exchange. Secret? If I convert you into my slave, all your secrets will be mine. Lin Feng smiled. Madame Qi's delicate body suddenly trembled when she heard the word convert. Madame Qi was a woman with an extremely high desire for power. How could she be willing to become someone else's slave? And after being converted, they would lose their sense of self. They were even worse than slaves. Madame Qi's face was filled with horror when she thought of the life of a walking corpse after being converted. You can actually feel fear? Lin Feng looked at Madame Qi in surprise. You know the great purification technique? Madame Qi looked at Lin Feng in horror. Lin Feng smiled as he said, That's right. My great purification is even more domineering than your great slavery technique. It can directly turn people into the most loyal slaves. You can't do this to me. I'd rather die than be converted, Madame Qi said with a trembling voice. She was really scared now. Die? Do you think you can die just because you want to now? Your little life is already in my hands, so you can't die even if you want to. You want to make me your male slave? That's great. I'm also planning to make you my female slave and train you well. Lin Feng laughed and was about to use the great purification technique to convert Madame Qi. Wait, Madame Qi cried out in horror. What? Do you have anything else to say? Lin Feng looked at Madame Qi. I can't accept this. Why did my flawless plan fail at your hands in the end? Where did it go wrong? Madame Qi glared at Lin Feng. She wanted to know the truth. There was a saying that even if one died, one had to die with their eyes open. Just like Madame Qi now. Lin Feng asked, Have you investigated who my friends are? Madame Qi didn't understand why Lin Feng would ask such a question, but she still replied, You went to the Sea Realm for Sikong Jiayue, so he should be a good friend of yours. Also, you have a good relationship with Jiang Yudi of the immemorial Jiang family, and it's said that you have a good relationship with Qian Rui Yuan of the immemorial Qian family. As for the Little Rock King, Madame Qi mentioned 7 or 8 people, and most of them were quite accurate. Most of them were peak experts that Lin Feng had met when he was training outside. Lin Feng said, But you neglected one thing. These people you mentioned are all peak experts of the younger generation, but you didn't investigate the situation within my sect. Within your sect? Madame Qi frowned slightly. The Blue Cloud sect was an ancient power, and it wasn't worth mentioning. Only Huangfu Qingtian, who had fought a battle to the death with Lin Feng, was a powerful figure. The other young cultivators were all small fries, so Madame Qi naturally didn't investigate them. Lin Feng smiled and said, I have a good friend called the Old Drunkard, and he always drags me to drink with him. My alcohol tolerance wasn't good, but after drinking with that old thing, I managed to train it. Usually, we can drink all night without getting drunk, but how much did I drink tonight? Are you pretending to be drunk? Madame Qi gritted her teeth in anger. Yes, if I didn't pretend to be drunk, how would I know what you're up to? Actually, I really hoped that you wouldn't play any tricks, but unfortunately, you just had to scheme against me. Also, I forgot to tell you that I'm also an alchemist, and I can tell what you've added to your 100 flowers wine just by tasting it. Although I didn't know that you were burning Buddha fat, I did know that after burning it, it would fuse with an ingredient called the profounding flower in the 100 flowers wine, and it would cause great harm to cultivators. Those who were hit by it would feel as if they had taken a qi-dispersing pill, and their magic power would be completely lost. Thus, I decided to beat you at your own game and lure you in. Lin Feng smiled. You're really a meticulous person, and I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. Madame Qi bit her red lips and said. Then, she continued, I'm willing to submit and pledge my loyalty to you, but I hope that you won't convert me. Do you think I'll agree? Lin Feng sneered. If you don't agree, I'll activate the restriction in my soul and destroy it. You have to think clearly. After destroying my soul, I'll die, and the people I control will regain their freedom. If you don't kill me, I'll submit to you and listen to your orders, and you'll get more than you can imagine, said Madame Chi. Ha ha ha, I like to make deals with people like you. Lin Feng laughed. He pinched Madame Chi's chin and sucked on her alluring red lips. Madame Chi's eyes widened, and she opened her mouth to bite Lin Feng. Before she could bite him, Lin Feng moved away in time. He looked at the angry Madame Chi and said with a smile, "From now on, you're mine, and everything you control is mine. Now, make a blood oath to be loyal to me." Chapter 1239. I, Qi Shuang, swear to the heavens that from now on, I will be loyal to Lin Feng. If I dare to violate this oath, my soul will be shattered, and I will die a horrible death. Madame Chi raised her right hand and swore. Suddenly, an imprint of the oath appeared in Madame Chi's mind. If Madame Chi dared to betray Lin Feng, she would die a horrible death. This was the first time Lin Feng had heard Madame Chi's name, and he reached out to caress her beautiful face. Madame Chi avoided him. She had the sharpening mirror barrier, so she didn't like to be in contact with men, especially when men touched her body. This was something that Madame Chi couldn't accept. What? You don't like it when I touch you? Lin Feng asked with a smile. Your subordinate wouldn't dare. Madame Chi bit her lip. Do you want to become a real woman? Lin Feng smiled at Madame Chi. Madame Chi's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper, and she shook her head. No, I'm scared. Master, you can't do this to me. Madame Chi looked at Lin Feng in horror. Perhaps Madame Chi had been traumatized in the past, but she was so afraid of intimate contact with men. Lin Feng patted her but said, I'll spare you for now. You can leave now. Madame Chi let out a long breath and got off the bed before respectfully standing next to it. Lin Feng asked, Since you want to establish a huge empire, have you thought about where you want to establish it? Madame Chi replied, So you plan on occupying a few of the 72 prefectures in the north to establish your empire? The 72 prefectures in the north were relatively weak, so Madame Chi's plan wasn't bad. Even if there were factions that resisted, with Madame Chi's power, she could easily destroy them. Madame Chi paused for a moment before continuing, Your subordinate has already submitted to you, young master, and I'm willing to hand over all of my power to you. Lin Feng said, I won't interfere with your life, so you can still establish your own empire and be your empress. Huh. Madame Chi looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. She thought she had heard wrong. Lin Feng slightly smiled as he replied, You don't need to doubt your ears. You didn't hear wrong. However, I suggested that you establish your empire in an overseas world because of the following considerations. First, the overseas world is rich in resources. Second, there are many places in the overseas world that are completely uninhabited. There are many places where you can establish an empire. When the time comes to display your empire's power, countless people will flock there, seeking protection. Third, although the 72 prefectures in the north are relatively weak, if you want to conquer a few prefectures to establish an empire, even if you succeed, you will be attacked by countless powers. That's because you're breaking the rules of the continent. If every peak power is able to wantonly seize the territories of those weaker than them, wouldn't the continent become chaotic? That's why the rules of the martial heaven continent cannot be challenged. Madame Chi nodded and said, Young master's words have indeed hit the nail on the head. If we establish an empire on the sea, where should we establish it? Lin Feng replied, The martial heaven continent is surrounded by seas. I'm not familiar with the other seas, but I'm quite familiar with the Eastern Sea. Since Desire Island has existed for so many years, why don't we use Desire Island as the center and establish an empire? Establish an empire? Madame Chi was shocked. Lin Feng continued, If we don't establish an empire, then even if we establish an empire in the future, it will only be like the cultivators in the Eastern Sea. It's already not bad that it can accommodate a few billion people, but it's still too small. Since we want to establish an empire, we naturally have to establish an empire that is large enough to accommodate at least 1 trillion people. Only then can it be called an immortal empire. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Madam Chi couldn't help but become excited. If he could establish an empire that could accommodate trillions of people on the sea, that would be too terrifying. Then, this empire would become the absolute overlord of the sea. It would be able to sweep away any power on the sea. But it's too difficult to establish an empire, Madam Chi said. Didn't you control a lot of powerful people? This is the time to use them. You have to learn the principle of making the best use of things, and people doing their duty. Lin Feng smiled. Madam Chi's eyes suddenly lit up. She hurriedly bowed to Lin Feng and said, "Thank you for your guidance, Master." Lin Feng nodded, and then said, "There are many hidden experts in the overseas world, and ordinary overseas forces can't invite them. If the reclamation of the sea is completed, then a giant force like the ancient Zhang family will appear on the sea, and this will be unprecedented. At that time, there will definitely be many experts who will come to join us, and we won't have to use schemes and tricks to control other cultivators." "This subordinate will remember," Madam Chi hurriedly said. "All right, you can leave now." Lin Feng waved his hand and said. Madam Chi said, "Young master, this subordinate still has something to worry about." "Tell me about it," Lin Feng said. "There are many forces on the sea, but due to various reasons, it's very difficult for a super force to appear on the sea. If we reclaim the sea and establish an empire, will it attract the fear of many forces on the sea? Those forces are very likely to attack us. If that happens, I'm afraid the plan will be difficult to complete." Madam Chi said worriedly, "There is indeed such a possibility, but the world is bustling for benefits. So what if the sea forces besiege us? Spend a lot of money to invite the 9 great pirate kings over. It's enough to repel any sea forces." Lin Feng said. Madam Chi's eyes lit up. She said, "Yes, master. This subordinate already understands what to do." After pausing for a moment, Madam Chi continued, "The night is long. This subordinate will call Niani over and let her serve you." "Chu Niani?" Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. He looked at Madam Chi and said, "Isn't Chu Niani your woman? Are you willing to give her to me?" At the banquet, when Madam Chi said that she would give Chu Niani to Lin Feng, Chu Niani's emotions fluctuated a lot. Lin Feng naturally saw it clearly. In addition, Lin Feng later found out that Madam Chi was a grind mirror pie, and Chu Niani was Madam Chi's personal maid. Chu Niani was obviously Madam Chi's woman. "Master is wise." Madam Chi bowed and said, "But don't worry, Master. Chu Niani's body is very clean, and the power of her primordial Yin is also present. Moreover, Chu Niani is not a grind mirror pie woman, so she will serve Master comfortably." "No need." Lin Feng waved his hand. "Yes." Madam Chi bowed. "Master, rest well." "This subordinate will take her leave." Madam Chi then left. After Madam Chi left, Lin Feng didn't feel sleepy at all. He simply started to cultivate. Lin Feng sat cross-legged, holding the 9-colored illusory stone in his hand, and entered a state of enlightenment. 90,000 star diagrams appeared in his mind. This was the soul refining technique. The 90,000 star diagrams turned into 90,000 stars. Lin Feng looked into the depths of the stars. The man in white stood in the deepest part of the 90,000 stars, full of mystery and ethereal. He was like an ancient emperor with his back to the world, lonely and desolate. Chapter 1240. 10 days later, Lin Feng arrived outside Great Eastern Ancient City. Lady Qi said, "Master, let Niani stay by your side and serve you." Lin Feng waved his hand and said, "There's no need for that. You can go back now. Gather people and contact the 9 great pirate kings. We'll start filling the sea and establishing a country." Lady Qi hurriedly nodded. Thinking about filling the sea and establishing a country, thinking about how she was about to become an empress, this woman with a strong desire for power couldn't help but feel excited. Lin Feng entered Great Eastern Ancient City and took the space-time wormhole to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. Great Eastern Ancient City didn't have a space-time wormhole to reach the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. In fact, the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters was a bit special. The ancestral Spiritual Array Masters were a mysterious profession. Under their noble and bright clothes, they needed absolute silence. Only in a quiet environment could a spiritual array master comprehend and research great arrays. Therefore, the temple city where the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters was located was a very quiet ancient city. Most of the cultivators there were spiritual array masters. It wasn't easy for people from the outside world to casually enter the temple city because the temple city didn't have a transmission array or a space-time wormhole. To reach the temple city, one had to pass through a prehistoric ancient forest that was full of danger. It was almost impossible for ordinary cultivators to go to the temple city, and the people from the top forces rarely went to the temple city. This was because they knew the rules of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. Ordinary people couldn't disturb the peace of the temple city. Of course, if there were some important matters, they could go to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters to ask for help, such as setting up a large defensive array for the sect. It was naturally very difficult to ask the upper echelons of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters for help. This was because spiritual array masters did not lack cultivation resources. Some high-level spiritual array masters could casually refine some offensive talismans, defensive talismans, and so on, which could be sold for sky-high prices. Therefore, even if they could ask the powerful spiritual array masters of the temple to help, the price that the top forces had to pay was often to owe the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters a favor. Many forces also liked to owe the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters a favor because the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters was too powerful. To be able to owe a favor, it was inextricably linked to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. There was a well-known saying in the Tianwu continent. This saying was called, "Don't enter a battle." In fact, this was the terrifying aspect of a spiritual array master. If a heaven-ranked spiritual array master meticulously set up a large array, it could even trap a rebirth realm expert to death. From this, one could see how terrifying a group of spiritual array masters were. What's more, a cultivator's life today was inseparable from a spirit array master. A cultivator's magic weapon required a spirit array master to draw a powerful array pattern to increase its power. The body-cleansing talismans, illumination talismans, fire-lighting talismans, and so on that cultivators' daily use were all drawn by spirit array masters. The Taoist robes worn by cultivators also had array patterns drawn by spirit array masters. Why was the spiritual array master the greatest and noblest profession? It was not only because of the strength of a spirit array master. The main reason was that cultivators couldn't live without a spirit array master. Without a spirit array master, life would be difficult. As the holy land of spiritual array masters, the Spiritual Array Master Temple was naturally filled with countless mysteries. Lin Feng took the space-time wormhole from ancient Taidong City to Holy View City. This was a city that was relatively close to the desolate ancient forest. The name Holy View City was very interesting. It was said that it had the meaning of looking at the Spiritual Array Master Temple across the endless desolate ancient forest. It was already late at night when he arrived at Holy View City. Lin Feng planned to rest in Holy View City for the night before leaving tomorrow. Yeah. Bibi woke up and ran out by itself, calling out with sleepy eyes. Looking at Bibi eating with relish, Lin Feng smiled and couldn't help rubbing Bibi's head. The night was bright and Lin Feng was sitting alone in the courtyard, admiring the moon and drinking wine. The central continent is the lair of the fire Qilin. I wonder where that guy ran off to now. Lin Feng shook his head slightly. He hadn't heard any news about the fire Qilin for a long time. Lin Feng wasn't too worried about the fire Qilin's safety. That fellow was very scheming, and it wouldn't be easy to scheme against it. Moreover, the fire Qilin's godly power was recovering. As its cultivation gradually recovered, there weren't many people on the Tianwu continent who could defeat it. After all, the fire Qilin was a 100% pure-blooded Qilin. It was one of the strongest divine beasts. What a little glutton. Lin Feng smiled at Bibi. Yeah. The little guy giggled as it drank. In the end, half a jug of wine was drunk by Bibi in one gulp. The little guy's footsteps staggered, and his whole body reeked of alcohol. Obviously, he was drunk. In the end, he fell onto the stone table and fell into a deep sleep. Bibi had grown up a lot in this period of time and wasn't as sleepy as before. This made Lin Feng very happy. However, the little guy was still too young and hadn't learned how to speak yet. 3 days later, Lin Feng arrived at the Great Desolation Town. The town's name was mighty and domineering, but in reality, it was just an ordinary town outside the Great Desolation Ancient Forest. The Great Desolation Town was very crowded with people coming and going. Lin Feng asked around and found out that these people were going to the Spiritual Array Master Temple to participate in the 3,000 Prefectures Spiritual Array Master Temples competition. The outstanding ones would be heavily rewarded by the Spiritual Array Master Temple and have the opportunity to enter the Sacred Pagoda to cultivate. This was enough to make anyone go crazy. Many descendants of ancient powers also came. Those ancient powers' inheritances might be very powerful, but they had their own specializations. The ancient powers' inheritances in the field of spiritual arrays were far from being comparable to the Spiritual Array Master Temple. Therefore, in order to obtain the best inheritances, one had to go to the Spiritual Array Master Temple. Although the Spiritual Array Master Temple kept a low profile, it had deep relationships with many of the top powers in the Tianwu continent. Therefore, the power that the Spiritual Array Master Temple held was unimaginable. Bibi ran happily on the street. As it ran, it turned its head to look at Lin Feng behind it. It squeaked as if it was urging Lin Feng to hurry up and catch up. When it turned a corner on the street, Bibi bumped into a white-clothed woman. Bibi was dizzy from the collision and fell on the ground. The white-clothed woman turned her head and looked. When she saw Bibi, her eyes immediately curved into crescents. What kind of little beast is this? It's actually so cute. The white-clothed woman stretched out her hand, wanting to hug Bibi, who was sitting on the ground. The little guy's eyes were sharp and its hands were fast. It disappeared with a whoosh and landed on Lin Feng's shoulder in the next instant. Void travel? Is this little beast so amazing? The purple-clothed woman next to the white-clothed woman said in shock. Of these two women, one had a graceful figure, while the other was tall and alluring. Her face was also extremely beautiful. They were both first-rate beauties. Now, the two women were looking at Bibi without blinking. Many people would find people to team up with in the Great Wilderness Ancient Forest. Lin Feng replied, I just came to Desolation Town and am alone, so I haven't found a team yet. Our team has more than 20 people, and their strength is not bad. We also have 2 or 3 elders who are at the level of ancient giants as escorts. Sir, why don't you join our team? Zhao Ling suggested. Yes, let's go to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters together. We can take care of each other, Hua Xinyu said. Zhao Ling and Hua Xinyu were not bad. They probably saw that he was alone and didn't have any guards by his side, so they thought that he was a rogue cultivator. It would be difficult for such a rogue cultivator to form a powerful team, so they wanted to help him. Lin Feng said, Thank you, fairies. When will the team set off? Follow us and gather with the main team now. We'll probably set off soon. Zhao Ling said, Okay. Lin Feng nodded. In a restaurant, Lin Feng met Zhao Ling and Hua Xinyu's companions. There were a total of 27 people. There were 7 young cultivators, 6 men and 1 woman. The rest were probably guards. Among them, there were 3 elders who were sitting in a private room, drinking tea and not coming out. The 3 old men were all ancient giants. However, the strongest among them was only at the 4th layer of the life and death realm and couldn't be considered a top expert. Seeing Zhao Ling and Hua Xinyu's arrival, the others stood up. A young man in blue looked at Lin Feng and frowned slightly, saying, Ling who is this brother? This is Lin Qing. I just met Hua Xinyu not long ago. He is also going to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, so we invited him to come with us. Zhao Ling said. Then, she introduced the 6 men and 1 woman to Lin Feng. The young man in blue was called Zhang Hanqian. He was a prince of the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty. The other 5 men were called Xin Mabai, Lu Shige, Lu Lixue, Dan Guangqi, Zhang Zixiao, and Li Muzi. The woman was called Mu Xiaowan. The 7 of them nodded at Lin Feng. Xin Mabai asked, Brother Lin, are you also going to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters to participate in the 3,000 Prefectures Spiritual Array Masters competition? The others also looked at Lin Feng. Obviously, if Lin Feng was also going to participate in the 3,000 Prefectures Spiritual Array Masters competition, then they would make friends with him. This time, the 3,000 prefectures were holding a spiritual array master competition. Depending on the situation in each prefecture, there would be at least a dozen people, and at most 100 people. They would come to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters to participate in the competition. However, the spiritual array masters who could participate in the competition were all outstanding talents of the younger generation. If they could perform well, they would be heavily nurtured by the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters in the future. Lin Feng said, "I'm not going to participate in the 3,000 Prefectures Spiritual Array Masters competition." When they heard Lin Feng's words, the 7 of them lost all interest in the battle. Shinmabai said, "Then, Brother Lin, are you going to watch the show?" Lin Feng said, "If there's a show to watch, then there's no harm in watching it." Shinmabai didn't say anything else, and the others didn't have any intention of talking to Lin Feng. At this time, the 7 of them called Zhao Ling, and Hua Xinyu to the side. Shinmabai said, "Ling Xinyu, this person's background is unknown. I think we should let him leave." "How can you say his background is unknown? I feel that he's quite a good person. He's righteous and not evil," Zhao Ling said. Lu Shige said, "Ling actually, Brother Mabai means that this person isn't a spiritual array master, and he doesn't even have a guard by his side. It's obvious that he's a lowly wandering cultivator. Bringing him along is like bringing a burden. It's better to get rid of him as soon as possible." Zhao Ling and Hua Xinyu frowned. Zhao Ling said, "Is that what you all mean?" Shinmabai, Lu Shige, Lu Lishui, Dan Guangqi, Zhang Zixiao, Li Muzi, and Mu Xiaowan all nodded. Hua Xinyu said unhappily, "Ling and I invited him over. If there's any danger, we'll protect him. You don't have to worry." Shinmabai smiled bitterly and said, "Xinyu, don't be angry. We were just saying it casually. Since you and Ling brought him here, then he'll come with us." Chapter 1242. The group traveled through the desolation ancient forest in a beast carriage. Flying above the desolation ancient forest on a flying mount was too dangerous, as it was easy to be attacked by ferocious beasts. On the other hand, riding a beast carriage made them less of a target and safer. 3 of the ancient giants rode in a beast carriage, while the rest rode in a larger beast carriage. The reason they didn't ride separately was because they were gathered together. If there really was danger, they could take care of each other in time and wouldn't have to fight alone. "Aya, our carriage can only fit 9 people. Brother Lin, can you ride a horse with the guards?" Zhang Hanxian looked at Lin Feng with a faint smile. Although these people had agreed to let Lin Feng follow them to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, it was obvious that they didn't accept Lin Feng. In their eyes, Lin Feng was destined to be someone from a different world from them. "We can still make room if we squeeze a little," Zhao Ling said. "Thank you for your kindness, Miss Ling, but there's no need to trouble yourself. I still prefer to ride a horse." Lin Feng nodded and jumped onto a ferocious horse. These dark yellow horses had the blood of demonic beasts flowing in their veins. They weren't ordinary horses, but a type of demonic horse. They could travel tens of thousands of miles in a day and could easily kick a martial king to death. When the group set out, Lin Feng and a few other cultivators riding dark yellow horses were at the back of the group. They quickly headed into the desolation ancient forest. Among the 20 or so guards, only a few came from the families of the young masters and young ladies. The rest were rogue cultivators who had joined the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty. Most of Zhao Ling's group were disciples of the various great families of the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty. The Great Dragon Immortal Dynasty was equivalent to a quasi-archaic force, and its strength was still very tyrannical. The top families of the Great Dragon Immortal Dynasty were also quite strong. Therefore, it was normal for them to be able to cultivate some talented young spirit array masters. A guard named No Dajiang smiled at Lin Feng and said, "Little brother, you're not going to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters just to watch the show, right?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "I'm going to the Spirit Array Master Temple to look for someone." Niu Dajiang immediately cried out in alarm, "Little brother, do you have relatives working in the Spiritual Array Master Temple?" Lin Feng replied, We can't be considered relatives, but we are still somewhat related. Niu Dajiang said, "Little brother, you must be modest. Once you find your relatives, if you can stay in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters as a guard or something, then you will have a meteoric rise." Niu Dajiang and the other guards all looked at Lin Feng with envy. They were all loose cultivators, and for the sake of survival, they would seek refuge under other powers. However, there were many times when they had to risk their lives. For example, escorting this group of young masters and young ladies through the desolate ancient forest was filled with danger. If they were unlucky, they might even lose their lives here. However, since they had been paid by their boss, they also had a contract and agreement. They had to follow their boss's orders, no matter how dangerous it was. If Lin Feng could become a guard in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, then he wouldn't be in any danger. Furthermore, what kind of place was the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters? Not just anyone could become a guard in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, but not just anyone was qualified to do odd jobs in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. Lin Feng replied, "I can't say that I'll have a meteoric rise. The world is difficult, and I only hope that my future will be smooth sailing." "Yes, the world is difficult." The guards nodded. "Which family do you belong to?" Lin Feng asked. Niu Dajiang replied, "The 3 overlords and the 6 guards at the front belong to the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty's aristocratic families. The rest belong to the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty's External Affairs Department. Every year, they receive 120 top-grade spirit stones from the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty. We've already served the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty for more than 100 years. In that case, you can be considered senior guards. The Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty should reward you with a residence or territory, right? I've heard that many ancient immortal dynasties give out such rewards in order to recruit experts. Ordinary cultivators, especially itinerant cultivators, worked hard all their lives for nothing more than to earn a piece of property for their retirement or for their loved ones. Since Niu Dajiang and the others were the subordinates of the previous lieutenant, they were no longer employed by the Great Dragon Ancient Immortal Dynasty. The situation that Niu Dajiang and the others encountered naturally made them very angry, but as rogue cultivators, they felt even more helpless. Perhaps this was the sorrow of rogue cultivators when faced with a powerful force. Lin Feng said, "When we reach the temple city, you can go to the Spirit Formation Master Temple to find me. I'll introduce you to a job." "Haha, then we'll have to thank Brother Lin." Niu Dajiang and the others laughed. Evidently, they didn't take Lin Feng's words to heart. After all, they thought that Lin Feng was going to rely on someone else. Their own futures weren't clear. How could they arrange jobs for a dozen or so people? Niu Dajiang and the others only thought that Lin Feng was young and liked to brag, so they didn't take it to heart. Look at that Lin Feng. He's actually chatting so happily with a group of guards. What a boorish person. Lu Lishui couldn't help but pout. Zhao Ling said unhappily, "Brother Lu, talking about people behind their backs isn't very good. It's very ungentlemanly." Lu Lishui's expression sank, and he said, "Sister Ling you're going overboard." "Brother, don't say that." Lu Shige glared at Lu Lishui. He was pursuing Zhao Ling so he naturally didn't want Zhao Ling and Lu Lishui to be unhappy. If Zhao Ling developed feelings of disgust towards him because of Lu Lishui, then wouldn't he be wronged? Lu Lishui's expression was gloomy, and he didn't say anything else. Zhang Hanxian smiled and tried to smooth things over. "We've been friends for many years. There's no need to harm our friendship over an outsider." Zhao Ling nodded and didn't say anything else. The group walked for 10 days in the forest. Although they were attacked by a few fierce beasts, with the help of the 3 ancient giants, they didn't encounter any real danger. On the 13th day in the forest, the group ran into trouble. The densely packed forest monsters surrounded them. These forest monsters were at least 30 to 40 meters tall, and some of them were even over 100 meters tall. The forest monsters were known for their ferocity, so when they saw these forest monsters, many people paled in fright. Chapter 1243. "Quick, let's break out of the encirclement before the monsters surround us," said an ancient powerhouse. He was a great elder from Zhao Ling Er's family. He had personally escorted Zhao Ling Er here. It was obvious that the Zhao family attached great importance to Zhao Ling Er. They were worried that something would happen to her, which was why they had sent such a powerhouse to protect her. The others came back to their senses and quickly jumped down from the beast carriage. They increased their speed to the maximum and rushed into the distance. Roar, roar, roar. The forest monsters' roars shook the sky. These monsters were invulnerable and extremely strong. Once they caught up with them, it would be extremely dangerous. Brother Lin, stay close to us. Don't get lost, said Niu Dajiang. Don't worry. Lin Feng took out a mid-tier Dao artifact battle spear and held it in his hand. It wouldn't attract too much attention. Roar, roar, roar. Roars could be heard as more than a dozen forest monsters rushed towards them. A gigantic monster of the forest swung its gigantic stone hammer at Lin Feng. Clang! Lin Feng was holding his battle spear, and his spear collided with the stone hammer of the gigantic monster. The gigantic monster was pushed back. Brother Lin, not bad. Your cultivation is not weak, said Niu Dajiang. Niu Dajiang said in shock. I was just lucky, said Lin Feng with a smile. The group of people worked together and fought against the forest monsters. Fortunately, although the forest monsters were strong, they were slow and couldn't completely surround the group of people. Therefore, no one in Lin Feng's group had died. Only 4 of the guards had been slightly injured. They had managed to escape from the encirclement of the gigantic monsters of the forest. They then quickly moved towards the depths of the forest. Behind them, numerous gigantic monsters were chasing them. The ground was shaking violently. They increased their speed and got rid of the forest monsters. Then, they entered a valley. After a tough battle, everyone sat on the ground and rested. Roar! Suddenly, a roar was heard. Then, the earth shook and the mountains shook. The huge mountain behind them instantly turned into a mountain demon. The mountain demon emitted a terrifying aura as it swung its huge palm towards them. Zhang Hanxian, Shen Mabai, and the others were usually studying spirit formations. They had never experienced such a dangerous situation. Now that they saw how terrifying the mountain demon was, they were scared silly. Zhao Ling Er's elder was called Zhao Qiwu. He leaped up and shouted, Brother Zhang, Brother Lu, protect them and leave. I will hold off this mountain demon for now. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Qiwu was already engaged in a fierce battle with the mountain demon. The other 2 Hegemon level experts and many guards escorted everyone away quickly. Only after fleeing for more than 30 miles did they finally stop. Zhao Linger paced back and forth anxiously. She was obviously worried about her elder. It didn't take long for Zhao Qiwu to fly over, but as soon as he landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. Zhao Qiwu had suffered heavy injuries from the battle with the mountain demon. 7th Grandpa, how are you? Zhao Linger quickly supported Zhao Qiwu. After Zhao Qiwu took a pill, his face regained some color. He said in a low voice, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. After a short pause, Zhao Qiwu continued, we can't stay here for long. Let's go. The group of people did not dare to linger and quickly left. The primitive forest was much more dangerous than they had imagined. If it were any other time, it might not have been so dangerous. Many powerful savage beasts would not have come out. However, during this period of time, many young cultivators with powerful bloodlines had entered the desolate ancient forest and attracted the attention of the terrifying beasts in the desolate ancient forest. The savage beasts of the primitive forest might not have cared about the bloodlines of ordinary cultivators. However, the powerful bloodlines of these young cultivators, especially those with special bloodlines, were something that the savage beasts would want to devour. These savage beasts could continuously devour powerful bloodlines to increase the power of their own bloodlines. Roar! A roar resounded through the clouds in the distance. A savage beast shrouded in black flames attacked hundreds of cultivators. That savage beast was too terrifying. With a swipe of its claws, more than 10 powerful cultivators were killed. Black Flame Draconic Lion. Let's leave quickly. If that Black Flame Draconic Lion sees us, we'll die. That creature can easily kill even high-level life and death realm experts. The cultivator with the surname Zhang said solemnly. Then let's leave quickly. Lu Lishui hurriedly shouted. He didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. He was already scared out of his wits. The group of people rushed into the distance. The black flame draconic lion was extremely ferocious. Only a few of the hundreds of cultivators were lucky enough to escape. The rest were killed. The great desolation ancient forest was too dangerous. When night fell, everyone hid in a valley to rest. Zhao Qiwu seized the time to heal his injuries. The atmosphere was stifling. Niu Dajiang and the others were also very afraid, but they didn't show their inner feelings. Since they were guards, they knew that a day like this might come when they had to face death. However, Zhang Hanxian, Shen Mabai, Lu Lishui, and the other disciples of aristocratic families didn't hide their emotions. Their faces were as pale as paper. The female cultivator called Mu Xiaowan was so scared that she started crying. The rest of the people were also trembling. Zhao Ling didn't have time to be afraid. She was guarding Zhao Qiwu, worrying about her seventh grandfather. Hua Xinyu was resting on a tree with a pale face. It was obvious that she had also suffered a great shock. Many disciples of aristocratic families had been protected by their families since they were young. They didn't lack anything, so they didn't experience many hardships. When faced with such a dangerous situation, they would naturally be terrified. Lin Feng was completely different from them. Lin Feng came from a small family, so he had to obtain everything he needed for cultivation. Therefore, Lin Feng went deep into dangerous places and experienced danger after danger. He was already used to life and death. Therefore, no matter how dangerous the situation was, he could still face it calmly. Brother, you're good. I don't think the three ancient giants are as calm as you, Niu Dajiang said with a wry smile. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and smiled. Life and death are up to fate. Wealth and honor are up to the heavens. There's no use in worrying. What's going to come will come sooner or later. Niu Dajiang gave him a thumbs up and said, I didn't expect Brother Lin to see things so clearly. I'm impressed. Lin Feng smiled and didn't say anything else. He leaned on the tree and rested. In the middle of the night, the earth shook violently, and everyone was awakened with a start. What's that? Mu Xiaowan pointed to the sky. 2 moons were floating in the air. Looking closely, those weren't moons at all. It was clearly an incomparably huge python. When the python raised its head, it was 3,000 to 4,000 meters tall. The 2 bright moons were the python's cold eyes. The entire python was at least 20,000 meters long. The primordial anaconda is dead for sure now. The 2 ancient giants who weren't injured trembled in fear when they saw the python. Zhao Qiwu, who was healing himself, was also awakened. He looked at the python in shock. Zhao Qiwu coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood. The others were so scared that they fell to the ground. The great desolate python opened its bloody mouth, as if it wanted to devour everyone hiding in the valley. At that moment, Lin Feng stood up. His cold eyes looked at the great desolate python. The python also saw Lin Feng. They looked at each other from a few thousand meters away. In the end, the python's killing intent gradually subsided. Rumble. The python's huge body swam through the forest, circling around the valley where Lin Feng and the others were. It quickly disappeared into the distance. Chapter 1244. Did we get out of danger? Zhang Hanxian and the others heaved a sigh of relief, looking as if they had just survived a disaster. They had almost been scared to death just now. That was a great desolate python. If it had attacked them, who would have been able to survive? If that had happened, everyone would have died without a burial place. What's going on? Why did the great desolate python leave? The 3 ancient giants looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know what had happened either. Could it have been because the great desolate python hadn't noticed them? But that shouldn't have been the case. The great desolate python had clearly been watching them. But in the end, the great desolate python had left. Could it have been because a terrifying creature had appeared in this area that even the great desolate python was afraid of? Was that why the great desolate python had left? Perhaps this was the only explanation for why the great desolate python had left. When they thought about the possibility that there was a creature even more terrifying than the great, desolate python, the three ancient powerhouses felt their hearts palpitate. But now, they didn't dare to move around casually. If they moved around at night, the danger they would face would increase exponentially. Amidst their worries, the night passed peacefully. The next morning, Lin Feng stretched and stood up. Niu Dajiang smiled bitterly. Brother Lin, you're really magnanimous. Last night was such a dangerous situation, but you were still able to sleep. Lin Feng replied, there's no point in worrying about that. Even if the sky falls, there'll be someone taller to hold it up. Lin Gongzi is really magnanimous, Zhao Ling said as she walked over. Lin Feng smiled and asked, how's Elder Zhao's body? Zhao Linger replied, fortunately, his injuries have stabilized. He should be fine after recuperating for a while. Lin Feng nodded. The group continued forward, and they didn't encounter any powerful beasts. 7 days later, the group walked out of the forest and saw an ancient city on the horizon. Temple City. We're here. Many people cried out in surprise. Cultivators continued to pass through the desolate ancient forest and arrive at the Temple City. The pitch-black walls of Temple City reflected a cold aura. Powerful guards guarded the city gates, and foreign cultivators all lined up in an orderly manner to enter Temple City. This was the city where the Spirit Array Master Temple was located, and it was rare to see such a lively scene. Most of the time, Temple City was an extremely quiet ancient city, with few people on the streets. This was because Spirit Array Masters spent most of their time studying spirit arrays, so who would be wandering around the streets? However, this period of time was clearly different. As the Spirit Array Master Competition of the 3,000 prefectures was about to begin, cultivators from the 3,000 prefectures had arrived, and Temple City had become extraordinarily lively. Lin Feng and the others entered Temple City. Lin Feng said, Miss Linger, Miss Qianyu, let's part ways here. Maybe we'll meet again when the competition starts. Hua Xinyu smiled and said, when the time comes, are you going to watch me and Ling compete? Don't worry, we'll definitely achieve good results and strive to stay in the Spirit Array Master Temple. Lin Feng said, when the time comes, I'll go and see you. I believe that you'll all achieve good results. Hua Xinyu smiled and said, thank you for your kind words. Zhao Linger said, Lin Gongzi, I'm sure we'll meet again. Lin Feng nodded, and Zhao Ling and Hua Xinyu walked towards the group. Niu Dajiang stayed behind and cupped his fists and said, Brother Lin, let's part ways here. After this time, I don't know if we'll meet again. I hope that you'll be able to find your family and have a bright future ahead of you. Lin Feng took out a jade tablet and said, before, I said that I'd help you find jobs, so I won't go back on my word. Take this jade tablet and bring your brothers to the Spirit Array Master Temple to find me. Someone will bring you to see me, and I'll make the necessary arrangements for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng stuffed the jade tablet into Niu Dajiang's hands, and then walked towards the Spirit Array Master Temple. Niu Dajiang held the jade tablet and was slightly stunned. He wanted to return the jade tablet to Lin Feng, but he realized that Lin Feng's figure had been blocked by the crowd, and he could no longer see where Lin Feng was. Niu Dajiang looked at the jade tablet in his hand and saw that it had the shape of an ancient pagoda drawn on it. There were no words on the jade tablet, and Niu Dajiang was a bit suspicious. However, he didn't think too much about it, and just assumed that it was Lin Feng's keepsake. At that moment, Niu Dajiang heard his companions call him over from afar, so he put away the jade tablet and hurried towards the group. The Spirit Array Master Temple was located in the central region of the Temple City. There were many palaces there, and the temple was surrounded by a huge courtyard. There were powerful restrictions all around, and if anyone wanted to climb over the walls, they would definitely die under the attack of the restrictions. There were more than 20 guards guarding the entrance. Many people stood in the distance and looked in the direction of the Spirit Array Master Temple. When they saw someone enter the Spirit Array Master Temple, their eyes were filled with envy. Being able to enter the Spirit Array Master Temple to cultivate was something that countless Spirit Array Masters dreamed of. When Lin Feng arrived at the entrance of the Spirit Array Master Temple, he was stopped. The Spirit Array Master Temple is not to be casually entered, the guard commander said. Lin Feng flicked his finger, and a talisman fell into the guard commander's hand. This was a divine sense imprint that the four ancestors had personally imprinted, inviting Lin Feng to the Spirit Array Master Temple. It was given to Lin Feng by Morong Baichuan. The guard commander checked it with his divine sense, and his expression suddenly shook. He handed the talisman to Lin Feng with both hands, then bowed to Lin Feng and said, "So it's Great Elder Lin Feng. Please follow me, Great Elder. This subordinate will bring Great Elder to see the Vice Temple Master." And Lin Feng nodded. After Lin Feng and the guard commander entered, the guards were abnormally shocked and began to discuss. Who was that young man just now? How could he make their family treat him so carefully? The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show were even more shocked. The guard commander of the Spirit Array Master Temple was an extraordinary figure. For such a great figure to be so respectful to that young cultivator, what kind of identity did that young cultivator have? Under the lead of the guard, Lin Feng arrived in a majestic and magnificent living room. At this moment, there were 4 people sitting in the living room. 2 of them were men and 2 were women. Obviously, for these people to be able to sit in the living room, their status should be extremely high. Guard Commander Nalen, this is the living room where the Great Elder rests. Not just anyone can be brought in. You have worked in the Spirit Array Master Temple for so many years. Don't you know this little rule? A thin, middle-aged cultivator with a gloomy gaze glanced at Lin Feng and couldn't help but reveal a look of contempt, then said in an indifferent voice. Chapter 1245. This head guard was called Nalen Yuanfang. He had already held the position of head guard in the Temple of Spirit Array Masters for more than 300 years. Regarding the Temple of Spirit Array Masters, the Great Elder-level Spirit Array Masters basically knew all of them. The only one he hadn't seen before was Lin Feng. Nalen Yuanfang had been able to become the guard captain for a reason. He had always been cautious and followed the principles of the temple. Low-key, enthusiastic, and polite. It was this 6-word policy that allowed him to slowly climb from an ordinary guard to the position of head guard of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. When Nalen Yuanfang heard the Great Elder's question, he smiled and said, "Great Elder Zhuge, this is Great Elder Lin Feng. So he is qualified to be in the guest hall?" Lin Feng? Hearing this name, everyone's spirits were lifted. Lin Feng's name could be said to have shaken the 3,000 prefectures. He had stepped on Morong Tianxin and ascended to the heaven's proud arena. His talent was unparalleled. Moreover, he had received the inheritance of a heavenly teacher. It was said that the temple's 4 ancestors wanted to train Lin Feng to be their successor. One had to know that Lin Feng was only 26 years old. They thought too highly of Lin Feng, who knew how many higher-ups of the temple were envious of him. "Am I qualified to sit here now?" Lin Feng smiled indifferently and looked at the skinny and gloomy Great Elder. The Great Elder smiled and said, "Since you are also a Great Elder of the temple, you are naturally qualified to sit here. Great Elder Lin, let me introduce you. This is Great Elder Zhuge Jian, this is Great Elder Tang Jiexing, this is Great Elder Shui Caixia, and this is Great Elder Do Yun." Nalen Yuanfang introduced 4 people to Lin Feng. The skinny and sinister-looking Great Elder was Zhuge Jian. The other middle-aged man was none other than Grand Elder Tang Jiexing. The beautiful woman in a blue dress was Great Elder Shui Caixia. The other old woman was Great Elder Do Yun. "Haha, so this is Great Elder Lin Feng. We've heard so much about you." Tang Jiexing stood up and walked towards Lin Feng with a smile on his face. Shui Caixia smiled charmingly and said, "You're really a young hero. I've heard of Great Elder Lin's name a long time ago, but I've never had the chance to meet you." Great Elder Do Yun smiled and said, "Great Elder Lin is young and promising, and I've been acquainted with you for a long time. Today, I've finally met you." Tang Jiexing, Shui Caixia, and Do Yun, the 3 Great Elders, were obviously good at dealing with people. On the other hand, Zhuge Jin sat in his seat without moving an inch. Lin Feng didn't care about this person's attitude towards him. As far as he was concerned, Zhuge Jin was just a passing traveler. He cupped his fists towards Tang Jiexing, Shui Caixia, and Do Yun and said, "Fellow Taoists, you're too kind. I'm really ashamed. This is my first time in the Temple of Spirit Array Masters, so I'm unfamiliar with everything here. In the future, I'll need your help in many areas. When Tang Jiexing, Shui Kaixia, and Dou Yun saw how humble Lin Feng was and how polite he was to them, they felt extremely proud of him. This face was supposed to be given to each other. You're giving me face. I'm giving you face. Although Lin Feng was young, he had a deep understanding of how to conduct himself. After the four of them sat down, Tang Jiexing said, I heard that fellow Taoist Lin was personally invited by the four ancestors? Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, I came because the four ancestors invited me, said Lin Feng. Does fellow Taoist Lin already know about that matter? Shui Kaixia asked with a smile. Lin Feng looked puzzled and said, May I know what fellow Taoist Shui is talking about? Shui Kaixia smiled and said, I heard about it from Vice Temple Master Morong yesterday. It's said that the four ancestors have already issued an order for fellow Taoist Lin to be the chief examiner for this year's competition. Oh, there's such a thing? Lin Feng was shocked. Dou Yun nodded and said, It's definitely true. I've also heard about it. We must congratulate fellow Taoist Lin. To Lin Feng, this was indeed something worth celebrating. All the geniuses of the 3,000 prefectures would be gathered in this competition. Lin Feng was the chief examiner, so it was obvious that the four ancestors wanted Lin Feng to nurture his own people. This signal was too obvious. The four ancestors wanted to nurture Lin Feng as their successor, which was why they wanted Lin Feng to nurture his own people so early on. In the future, when Lin Feng truly took over the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, he would have a group of followers, so he wouldn't be stripped of his authority. Tang Jiexing, Shui Kaixia, and Dou Yun were so enthusiastic about Lin Feng. It was obvious that they also wanted to board Lin Feng's ship, which was about to sail. Haha, the order hasn't been issued yet, so don't spread false rumors here. I believe that the four ancestors will make a careful decision. Among the four successors, 2 are already very young. How can the 4th successor still be a youngster? They will definitely find someone steady to take on such a great responsibility, Zhuge Jin said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The Temple of Spiritual Array Masters didn't have just one successor, but 4. For example, the 4 ancestors of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. They each had a part of the authority. They would also supervise each other. This was to prevent the authority from being too concentrated. Before Lin Feng had arrived, the 4 ancestors had already decided on 3 heirs. It was just that so many years had passed, and the 4 ancestors had been bitterly searching for a 4th successor. However, the 4 ancestors had never been able to find a successor that satisfied them until Lin Feng appeared. But there were also many people eyeing this position. Lin Feng would naturally be hated by some people who were eyeing this position. This Zhuge Jin had always been eccentric, and Lin Feng guessed that Zhuge Jin was likely to be involved in this matter. Hearing that the 4 ancestors wanted to set him as the 4th successor to the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, Zhuge Jin's heart was filled with jealousy, so he targeted him like this. Tang Jiexing wanted to refute, but Lin Feng shook his head, indicating that he shouldn't lower himself to the same level as this person. Even if you don't speak, you still think that my words are reasonable, right? Zhuge Jin said with a smug look. There were also people supporting Zhuge Jin behind him, and they were currently working on it. Therefore, it was still unknown who would become the 4th successor in the end. If the people behind Zhuge Jin were to succeed, Lin Feng would be removed from the position of head examiner, and it was entirely possible for Zhuge Jin to be the head examiner this time. Fellow Taoist Lin doesn't lower himself to your level, but you're pushing your luck? Tang Jiexing couldn't help but sneer. Zhuge Jin sneered, Tang Jiexing, don't be the first to jump out. If you find out that you've boarded the wrong ship, you'll cry when the time comes. Lin Feng frowned slightly. This Zhuge Jin's words were too unpleasant. Although he was mocking Tang Jiexing, everyone knew that Zhuge Jin was actually targeting him. P.S. Today's 6th update. I'm going out to exercise tonight. The 7th update will come out around 11 o'clock. Please recommend me. Please reward me. Chapter 1246. Tang Jiexing was also a great elder, and his status wasn't any lower than Zhuge Jin's. Hearing Zhuge Jin's sarcastic words, Tang Jiexing's face darkened, and he said in a deep voice, Zhuge Jin, are you threatening me? Do you know what kind of crime it is to threaten a great elder of the temple? Zhuge Jin smiled and said, Isn't Great Elder Tang a little too sensitive? We're just having a normal conversation, yet you think I'm threatening you? If Great Elder Tang wants to slander me, it won't be so easy. Zhuge Jian's character was gloomy, and he was good at sophistry. Tang Jiexing was left speechless by his rebuttal. Lin Feng's face darkened even more. Zhuge Jian had successfully provoked Lin Feng's anger. He hadn't lowered himself to Zhuge Jian's level before, but did Zhuge Jian really think he was easy to bully because he was young? Thinking of this, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with coldness. He looked at Zhuge Jian and said indifferently, "A straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. We all know what Great Elder Zhuge is thinking. There's no need to mock and ridicule him. This will only make others look down on Great Elder Zhuge." Zhuge Jian said coldly, "You really have no manners. How long has it been since you joined the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters and became a Great Elder? You dare to be so impudent in front of this Great Elder?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "Put away your face. The Temple of Spiritual Array Masters isn't a place where seniority is decided. In this place, the stronger one is, the more authority they have." Zhuge Jian's lips curled into a cold smile as he said, "If that's the case, Great Elder Lin, do you think you are very strong? I wouldn't dare say that I'm very strong, but I have no problem suppressing Great Elder Zhuge." Lin Feng flicked his sleeves and said, "Do you know why the 4 great ancestors chose me and not you? It's because I'm stronger than you, younger than you, and more talented than you. Great Elder Zhuge is inferior to me in every aspect, yet he still wants to compete with me for the position of successor. Isn't he overestimating himself? I see that you're a Great Elder of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. If you apologize to Great Elder Tang now, I'll spare you. But if you don't know your place, today's matter won't end so easily." Tang Jiexing, Shui Caixia, and Dou Yun were all very surprised. They hadn't expected Lin Feng to be so domineering. A moment before, when they saw Lin Feng swallow his anger, they thought that Lin Feng had a weak personality. But now that they saw how domineering Lin Feng was, they realized that Lin Feng hadn't bothered with Zhuge Jian because he was considering the big picture. After all, it wouldn't be good for the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters to have a conflict with the Great Elders of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. But with Zhuge Jian's continuous provocations, Lin Feng showed his domineering side and actually made Zhuge Jian apologize to Tang Jiexing. In fact, apologizing to Tang Jiexing was equivalent to bowing down to Lin Feng and admitting his mistake. Everyone was well aware of this. If he really apologized, Zhuge Jian would lose all his face. When Zhuge Jian heard Lin Feng's words, his face became gloomy. He sneered and said, "Today, I'd like to experience Great Elder Lin's methods." As soon as he said that, Zhuge Jian stepped forward, and the runes on his body twisted. With Zhuge Jian as the center, the dense array patterns spread out in all directions. Tang Jiexing said, "Great Elder Lin, let me deal with Zhuge Jian." Obviously, Tang Jiexing was worried that Lin Feng would be at a disadvantage. They were all great elders of the Temple of Spirit Array Masters, but there was a huge gap between them. Some great elders were at the level of Earth-rank Spirit Array Masters, and some great elders were at the level of Heaven-rank Spirit Array Masters. And Zhuge Jian was obviously a Heaven-rank Spirit Array Master, and among the more than 700 great elders of the Temple of Spirit Array Masters, he was ranked at the top. It was true that Lin Feng had obtained the inheritance of the Celestial Master Path, and Lin Feng's future was limitless. But Lin Feng was too young after all. No matter how good his talent was, if he didn't have enough time to cultivate, it would naturally be difficult to raise his level as a Spirit Array Master. Therefore, Tang Jiexing wanted to replace Lin Feng to deal with Zhuge Jian. "Fellow Taoist Tang, you don't have to worry. It's not difficult to deal with a small character like Great Elder Zhuge." Seeing that Tang Jiexing was about to make a move, Lin Feng said indifferently, "Fellow Taoist Tang, listen to fellow Taoist Lin. Don't interfere in this matter." Shui Caixia saw Lin Feng's confident look and said aloud. Tang Jiexing nodded and took 3 steps back. "You don't have much real talent, but you've learned a lot of bragging skills. Today, I, the Great Elder, will teach you a good lesson and let you know that there is always someone better than you." Zhuge Jian's expression was indifferent as he stepped forward. He looked coldly at Lin Feng and said, The formation pattern that I condensed is called the 9 Extreme Heavenly Suppression Pattern. Kneel in front of me and repent for your stupidity just now." As soon as he finished speaking, dense formation patterns enveloped Lin Feng. Lines of formation runes twisted in the void. All of Lin Feng's escape routes were blocked. Then, those deployment marks moved towards Lin Feng and oppressed him. They wanted to make Lin Feng kneel on the ground. Tang Jiexing, Shuai Caixia, and Dou Yun, the 3 great elders, looked at Lin Feng with worry. Although Lin Feng was very confident just now. However, Zhuge Jin's attainments in the field of array formation were indeed very profound. Now, he had even used his ultimate move, the 9 Extreme Heavenly Suppression Pattern. Tang Jiexing, Shuai Caixia, and Dou Yun were naturally worried about Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was too young. "You dare to show off your insignificant skills in front of me?" Lin Feng sneered, raised his right hand, and chopped down. Puff. Lin Feng's attack instantly tore apart the dense formation patterns. Fellow Daoist Lin is actually so powerful? Tang Jiexing, Shuai Caixia, and Dou Yun were shocked when they saw Lin Feng instantly break Zhuge Jin's 9 Extreme Heavenly Suppression Pattern. They clearly knew how powerful Zhuge Jin's 9 Extreme Heavenly Suppression Pattern was. Even if the 3 of them attacked together, they wouldn't dare say that they could block the 9 Extreme Heavenly Suppression Pattern's attack, let alone break it. However, such a powerful spiritual array had been broken by Lin Feng in an instant. Just how powerful was Lin Feng as a spirit array master? Zhuge Jin's expression changed when he saw that his formation pattern was broken, and he quickly retreated. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he stepped forward and sneered. "Didn't you just say that you wanted me to kneel on the ground and repent? I think that's a pretty good idea. Zhuge Jin, kneel." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng's right hand, which was surrounded by runes, pressed down. Zhuge Jin wanted to dodge, but he couldn't. He could only sweep his fist over, hoping to break Lin Feng's formation pattern. The 2 sides collided, and the formation pattern on Lin Feng's hand instantly wrapped around Zhuge Jin. Puff. Zhuge Jin couldn't resist the formation pattern's powerful pressure. His legs went soft, and he directly knelt in front of Lin Feng. Chapter 1247. No. This is absolutely impossible. This can't be real. Zhuge Jin roared like a madman. He couldn't believe what was happening in front of him, nor could he accept what was happening in front of him. How could the 4 ancestors appoint him as the 4th successor after suffering such humiliation and losing their prestige? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many spirit array masters from the temple heard the commotion and quickly rushed over. Many of them were Grand Elder level spirit array masters. Now that they saw Zhuge Jin kneeling on the ground, they were all extremely shocked. One of the Grand Elders looked at Nalan Yuanfang and asked, "Captain Nalan, what happened?" "Sir, Grand Elder Lin and Grand Elder Zhuge just now fought. Grand Elder Zhuge was defeated and was suppressed by Grand Elder Lin." Nalan Yuanfang said, "Grand Elder Lin? Which Grand Elder Lin?" Everyone was puzzled. Nalan Yuanfang said, "He is Grand Elder Lin Feng." Nalan Yuanfang's words were like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. When they heard the name Lin Feng, many people were shocked and moved. They had heard this name too many times during this period of time. It wasn't just because Lin Feng had defeated Heavenly God Morong and ascended to the Prodigy Arena. Most importantly, it was because Lin Feng was the successor of the Celestial Master Path. In addition, the Temple of Spirit Array Masters had been spreading rumors that the 4 ancestors were planning to nurture Lin Feng as the 4th successor. Lin Feng's name was like thunder to the ears of the Temple of Spirit Array Masters. But in reality, many people didn't take Lin Feng seriously before this. Talent didn't equate to strength. After all, Lin Feng was too young. He was probably only an Earth-rank Spirit Array Master. But at that moment, when they saw Zhuge Jin kneel down in front of Lin Feng, everybody knew that they were wrong. Zhuge Jin was one of the top Grand Elders, even among the 700 or so Grand Elders. His ability was inferior to Lin Feng's. It was obvious how terrifying Lin Feng was. With his hands behind his back, Lin Feng looked at Zhuge Jin coldly and said, "Zhuge Jin, let me ask you, do you submit?" Are you still not convinced? Zhuge Jian looked at Lin Feng with resentment. He knew that his future hope of being in charge of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters had been completely extinguished. He hated Lin Feng to the core. Zhuge Jian said bitterly, Lin Feng, you brat, you humiliated me today. I, Zhuge Jian, will remember this enmity. In this life, you and I cannot exist under the same sky. Oh? Lin Feng looked at Zhuge Jian coldly. Back then, you said that you wanted me to kneel on the ground and repent, but unfortunately, you didn't have the ability to do so. Now that you are kneeling before me, you should repent for your previous actions instead of continuing to anger me. Do you really think that I won't dare to cripple you? Impudent. At this moment, a cold shout rang out. Then, a skinny old man walked over. It's Deputy Sun Yongchang. He's here. Many spiritual array masters were shocked and hurriedly made way for the Deputy Sun Yongchang. There were a total of 12 Deputy Temple Masters in the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters. These 12 Deputy Temple Masters all held great power. Sun Yongchang was one of them. These Deputy Temple Masters were all powerhouses of the older generation, so they couldn't inherit the positions of the four ancestors. Moreover, with the retirement of the four ancestors, these Deputy Temple Masters had to retire as well. There would be 4 new Deputy Temple Masters appointed by the new Deputy Temple Masters. The purpose was to prevent these Deputy Temple Masters from the older generation from not handing over the power in their hands. The Temple of Spiritual Array Masters was very clear about the handover of power. There would be no old rule. The so-called old rule referred to those of the older generation who retired but didn't hand over the power in their hands and still secretly manipulated many things. This is Deputy Sun Yongchang. He is one of the 3 Deputy Temple Masters who support Zhuge Jian. Tang Jiesheng whispered to Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. At this moment, Sun Yongchang walked in with a gloomy expression. Lin Feng, do you know your crime? Sun Yongchang asked coldly. Lin Feng asked indifferently, what crime have I committed? Sun Yongchang said coldly, publicly humiliating the great elder of the temple is a serious crime. Lin Feng said indifferently, it seems that Deputy Temple Master Sun's eyes are blurred. This Zhuge Jian thought that I was young and easy to bully, so he wanted to make me kneel on the ground. However, he wasn't strong enough and was suppressed by me. Actually, as a junior, I shouldn't blame Deputy Temple Master Sunday. After all, he has worked hard for the temple for so many years. However, I think that for the prosperity of the temple, it's time for Deputy Temple Master Sun to give up his position. Lin Feng's words caused an uproar in the surroundings. Many people hadn't expected Lin Feng to be so audacious as to ask a Deputy Temple Master to give up his position. If someone else had said that, I would have thought that they were arrogant and despotic. However, Lin Feng's words are domineering because he has the strength to back it up. Many people were discussing in low voices. Many of them were even thinking of making friends with Lin Feng. If they could get on Lin Feng's ship, their status in the temple would definitely rise. Ignorant brat, you're actually so arrogant and despotic. If the temple is handed over to you, you'll definitely become a source of disaster, shouted Sun Yongchang angrily. Lin Feng said, Deputy Temple Master, you're wrong. The temple can only truly flourish if it's handed over to me. I'm 26 years old this year, but apart from the 4 ancestors, there shouldn't be anyone on the continent stronger than me. The temple needs a guide, and I'm that guide. After saying that, Lin Feng walked towards Sun Yongchang step by step. Dense formation runes condensed in the void and pressed down on Sun Yongchang. Heavens! Is Great Elder Lin going to fight with Deputy Temple Master Sun Yongchang? Many people were shocked. Lin Feng had just suppressed Zhuge Jian. Was he going to suppress Sun Yongchang now? Lin Feng, you brat, you're too arrogant. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. Sun Yongchang's expression was gloomy. Dense runes appeared on his palm, and he attacked Lin Feng. It was a battle between spiritual formation masters. It was a battle to see whose spiritual formation techniques were stronger. Bang! Both sides collided. Thump, 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 thump. The runes on Sun Yongchang's palm were instantly broken, and he was forced to retreat. The runes pressed down on Sun Yongchang. Sun Yongchang couldn't move at all. His legs were trembling, and it seemed like he was about to kneel in front of Lin Feng. But at that moment, Lin Feng dispersed the runes on Sun Yongchang's body. The whole hall was silent. Everyone was staring at Lin Feng in shock. That was too terrifying. Sun Yongchang, one of the 12 deputy temple masters, had been suppressed in an instant. No wonder the 4 ancestors valued him so much. Vice Leader Sun, you're a strong cultivator of the holy shrine. You've worked hard for the holy shrine all your life, so I respect you a lot. I'm just telling you that under my leadership, the holy shrine will rise to glory. Today, I'm giving you face and sparing Zhugejian, but you should go back and tell him not to cause trouble for me again. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as kneeling on the ground next time, said Sun Zhugejian. Lin Feng waved his sleeve and Zhugejian was sent flying a dozen meters away. Chapter 1248. Sun Yongchang's expression changed, but in the end, he sighed. He had lived for more than 7,300 years and had been exposed to spiritual arrays since he was 8 years old. But now, he had been defeated by a 26-year-old youth. This made Sun Yongchang feel a deep sense of defeat. In the depths of his heart, he even felt that perhaps the temple of spiritual array masters could only reach glory under the leadership of such a heaven-defying figure like Lin Feng. Sun Yongchang gave Lin Feng a deep look, then turned and left. Zhugejian also hurriedly left with Sun Yongchang. After Sun Yongchang and Zhugejian left, many people rushed over. Great Elder Lin, I've heard a lot about you. Great Elder Lin, I've been friends with you for a long time. There was no lack of great elders among these people, and now, they all took the initiative to express their goodwill to Lin Feng. Vice Temple Lord Murong Baishan is here. Someone shouted at that moment. Everyone hurriedly made way, and Murong Baishan quickly walked in. When he saw Murong Baishan, Lin Feng was stunned. Murong Baishan and Murong Baichuan were too similar. At least 60 to 70% similar. Vice Temple Lord Murong Baishan and Vice Temple Lord Murong Baichuan are brothers? Lin Feng immediately thought of this possibility and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had never heard Murong Baichuan mention it before, but these two brothers were really powerful. One was a vice temple lord, while the other was a governor. Haha, great Elder Lin, you've finally come to the temple of spiritual array masters. I was just busy with some matters, but when I heard that you were here, I hurried over. Murong Baishan smiled. Lin Feng greets the vice temple lord. Lin Feng bowed to Murong Baishan. He could ignore Sun Yongchang, who was also a vice temple lord, but he couldn't do the same to Murong Baishan. This was because Lin Feng knew that Vice Temple Lord Murong Baishan was definitely one of the Vice Temple Lords who supported him to be the 4th successor. It was Murong Baichuan who had recommended Lin Feng into the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters, and Lin Feng and Murong Baichuan had a deep friendship. Murong Baichuan was a loyal supporter of Lin Feng. As Murong Baichuan's elder brother, Murong Baishan naturally supported Lin Feng. In fact, during this period of time, Murong Baishan had put in a lot of effort in the Spirit Array Master Temple. Not only had he roped in several Vice Temple Masters to support Lin Feng, he had also roped in many great elders. From Murong Baishan's perspective, Lin Feng was indeed worthy of their support and loyalty. A new emperor brings in his own ministers. The higher-ups of the Temple of Spiritual Array Masters also had to consider their own futures. He had to choose a wise leader to follow in order to have a bright future. They were not only doing this for themselves, but also for their clansmen and future generations. Haha, great elder, there's no need to be so polite. Let's go to the inner hall, Murong Baishan said. Lin Feng nodded and went to the inner hall with Murong Baishan. The 4 ancestors think highly of you, but there are still some who are unwilling to give up and are secretly manipulating this matter. I've been very busy these past few days, but what I didn't expect was that your level as a spiritual array master had already reached such a high level. Murong Baishan clearly already knew that Lin Feng had suppressed Zhugejian and defeated Sun Yongchang. Lin Feng smiled and said, sometimes, showing one's strength will make many people shut up. Murong Baishan originally thought that Lin Feng had acted on impulse, but now that he heard Lin Feng's words, he was shocked. Clearly, Lin Feng had acted on purpose? Was this for the higher-ups to see? For the competition to see? Lin Feng smiled and said, originally, I didn't know why Zhuge Jian was targeting me. After all, I had just arrived at the spiritual array master temple and was unfamiliar with the place, so I didn't bother with him. Later, I found out that Zhuge Jian also wanted to become the fourth successor of the temple, so I suppressed him. He was kneeling on the ground and lost all face. Even the vice temple masters who supported him didn't have the face to continue recommending him, right? In the face of absolute strength, any scheme will be destroyed in a single blow. Morong Baishan was extremely shocked. He hadn't thought that Lin Feng's thoughts would be so meticulous. Furthermore, he was able to see the crux of many things. It was just as Lin Feng had said. In the face of absolute strength, any scheme would be like a paper tiger and not worth mentioning. Morong Baishan knew that after today's events, the fourth successor would definitely belong to Lin Feng. Who would have the ability to compete with Lin Feng? In the evening, there will be a party. A few vice leaders and some great elders of the holy shrine will be there to welcome you, said Lin Feng. Morong Baishan said. Obviously, Morong Baishan wanted to gather all the vice temple masters and great elders who supported Lin Feng to formally meet with Lin Feng. Everyone needed to deepen their relationship. This was an extremely important matter. Lin Feng nodded and said, when? Where? Tonight at 6 o'clock, at the Four Saints building. Someone will come to pick you up then, Morong Baishan said. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. When Sun Yongchang returned to his residence, the other two vice temple masters were already waiting for him. Zhuge Jian followed him in. Zhuge Jian's face was filled with hatred as he said, Sir, I want to kill that brat. I want him to die without a grave. I'll contact the assassin dynasty right now. As long as he dies, the fourth successor will still be mine. Sun Yongchang sighed and said, how can someone like him be killed so easily? One move. He was able to break my spirit array technique. This isn't something that can be done with a simple spirit array technique. I'm afraid that this person's strength is close to the rebirth realm. The other two vice temple masters were moved. They were called Lu Shibao and Dong Yunhe. Lu Shibao said, if that's the case, we need to find a time to have a good chat with Morong. Dong Yunhe nodded and said, yes, we're about to leave. It's time to have a good chat with Morong. Seeing the three vice temple masters who supported him lower their heads, Zhuge Jian's heart not only hated Lin Feng, but also the three vice temple masters. He hated that the three vice temple masters had actually chosen to withdraw at this time. With the three of them withdrawing, it was impossible for him to control the temple of spirit array masters. Zhuge Jian was extremely greedy. Thus, he couldn't accept the fact that he had lost to Lin Feng. However, Zhuge Jian was a person with deep thoughts, so he wouldn't show this in front of the three vice temple masters. Zhuge Jian, I know you're angry. Today, you shouldn't have attacked Lin Feng. You're kneeling on the ground. You're humiliating yourself. Even if Lin Feng didn't become the next great elder, you wouldn't have been able to become the next great elder. The four ancestors wouldn't have given such an important position to someone who had been forced to kneel on the ground in front of so many people. Lin Feng is rising. He can't be stopped. From now on, you should focus on being the great elder. Don't do anything else, otherwise, you'll be killed. Sun Yongchang said. Yes. Zhuge Jian lowered his head and replied. All right, you may leave. Sun Yongchang waved his hand. This subordinate will take his leave. Zhuge Jian left. After leaving Sun Yongchang's residence, Zhuge Jian's face became distorted. Lin Feng, you little bastard. I'm going to kill you. Sun Yongchang, Lu Shibao, Dong Yunhe, you three old bastards, you actually chose to withdraw at this time. Don't blame me for being unkind to you. I want you all to die together. Go to hell, you bastards. Zhuge Jian quickly walked out of the Temple of Spirit Array Masters. He wanted to contact the Assassin Dynasty and offer a huge reward for them to kill Lin Feng, Sun Yongchang, Lu Shibao, and Dong Yunhe. Chapter 1249. Lin Feng was arranged to stay in a beautiful courtyard in the Spirit Array Master Temple. Bibi was happily jumping around in the courtyard, oblivious to everything else. The sun was setting in the west. Lin Feng looked at Bei Bei, who was playing, and smiled. Grand Elder, young Master Zhuge Haobua is here to see you. A servant girl came in to report. Lin Feng said, "Let him in." Soon, a teenager who looked to be around 16 or 17 walked in. Zhuge Haobo greets Grand Elder Lin. Zhuge Haobo bowed. No need for formalities. Lin Feng waved his hand. Zhuge Haobo stood up and looked curiously at the man who was only a few years older than him, but who was rumored to be the next leader of the temple. The news of Lin Feng suppressing Zhuge Jian with a flick of his finger and defeating Sun Yongchang had spread far and wide. Now, the entire temple city was talking about it. Zhuge Haobo was naturally very curious about Lin Feng. "You're called Zhuge Haobo. How is Zhuge Haobo related to you?" Lin Feng asked. "He's my great-grandfather," Zhuge Haobo said. Lin Feng nodded. Zhuge Haobo said, "Grand Elder, the carriage is ready. Should we head to the Four Saints' house for the banquet?" "All right, lead the way," said Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "Yes." Zhuge Haobo led the way. Lin Feng got into a carriage, and Zhuge Haobo personally drove the carriage towards the Four Saints' house. It seems like Zhuge Haobo is quite talented. That's why Zhuge Baishan asked him to drive the carriage for me. He probably wants me to remember him. Lin Feng closed his eyes and rested. Niu Dajiang and the others escorted the disciples of the great dragon ancient immortal dynasty to the temple city. The last mission was completed. More than 10 people were walking on the streets. Someone said, 180 years ago, which is today, we've become the guards of the great dragon ancient immortal dynasty. 180 years later, we've completed our final duty as guards. 180 years is a cycle. Not a day more, not a day less. I wonder, where will we spend the next 180 years? They had worked so hard for so many years and were about to obtain a manor and land in the great dragon ancient immortal dynasty. But in the end, all their efforts were in vain. They naturally felt extremely stifled in their hearts. It wasn't easy being an itinerant cultivator. They couldn't compare to the cultivators of the major clans and powers who had to worry about many things. Niu Dajiang replied, "No matter how difficult life is, life has to go on. I wonder how Brother Lin is doing. Did he find his family?" One of them said. Niu Dajiang replied, "Before Brother Lin left, he gave me a jade tablet and told me to go to the Spirit Array Master Temple to find him. He said that he would find us a job." The others smiled and shook their heads. One of them said, "Young people like to save face sometimes. Brother Lin is also young, so it's understandable." "That's right. Lu Linhai, go to the Foreign Affairs Hall and ask if there's someone called Lin Qing who came to look for relatives," Nailin Yuanfang said. If someone came to the Spirit Array Master Temple to look for relatives, they would be registered in the Foreign Affairs Hall. "Yes, sir," the cultivator called Lu Linhai said. He went to ask, but soon returned and reported to Nailin Yuanfang, "Sir, there's no one called Lin Qing who came to look for relatives." Nailin Yuanfang nodded, then looked at Niu Dajiang and the others and said, "The person you're looking for isn't here. Quickly leave." "Yes." Niu Dajiang and the others didn't dare to stay, and they walked outside. "It seems like Brother Lin didn't find his relatives?" someone asked. Niu Dajiang nodded and said, "Yes, if Brother Lin found his relatives, the Foreign Affairs Hall should have a record. Let's go and look for Brother Lin. Let's see if we can find him." The group of more than 10 people walked outside. At that moment, more than 10 people riding black flame beasts rushed over from the distance. There were more than 10 young cultivators, both male and female. They rampaged through the streets, causing people to be thrown off their horses. Many people who were slower to dodge were sent flying by whips. A group of lowly commoners. "Do you think the Spirit Array Master Temple is a place you can just casually watch?" One of the young cultivators sneered. During this period of time, many people had come to Temple City to pay their respects to the mysterious Spirit Array Master Temple. Most of them were independent cultivators. These independent cultivators had risked their lives to cross the forest to reach Temple City, and they weren't just there to watch the show. Now, the geniuses of the 3,000 prefectures had gathered in Temple City, and these geniuses were all from extraordinary backgrounds. Their clans had sent higher-ups to escort them here. These independent cultivators wanted to find an opportunity to climb up the ranks of some of the major powers, then join them and become their guards. After all, it was better to lean against a big tree. After crossing the forest, some of the major powers had indeed lost many guards, and those who were able to stay in the Spirit Array Master Temple were few and far between. Most of them would leave after the finals, so the powers that had left had to recruit new guards to fill in the gaps of those who had died. As long as they were strong enough, independent cultivators could find decent clans to join. However, the higher-ups of the Spirit Array Master Temple looked down on these ordinary independent cultivators. Not to mention ordinary independent cultivators, most of them even looked down on the descendants of aristocratic families. Now, most of the people gathered outside the Spirit Array Master Temple to watch the show were independent cultivators, and there were very few descendants of aristocratic families. If it was a descendant of an aristocratic family, they didn't need to watch from the outside, and could follow their elders into the Spirit Array Master Temple to pay a visit. Most aristocratic families had friendly relations with the Spirit Array Master Temple. This was also the reason why this group of higher-ups of the Spirit Array Master Temple were so unscrupulous in harming others. In fact, the descendants of the higher-ups of any major powers had both outstanding and mediocre disciples. Naturally, there was no lack of hedonistic disciples. A group of more than 10 people rode on black flame beasts and rushed towards the Spirit Array Master Temple. Along the way, they lashed out again and again, and many cultivators who were slower to dodge were sent flying. This was the tragedy of independent cultivators. In a world where the strong preyed on the weak, even if independent cultivators were bullied, who would speak up for them even if they were killed? No one cared about the life and death of independent cultivators. In a world where people ate people, this was the cruelest law of survival. Pa! One of the young masters raised his whip and lashed out again. Crack! A 15 or 16-year-old boy grabbed the whip that was lashed at him. Aren't you guys going too far? Aren't independent cultivators also human? The young man said angrily. You're courting death. The young master who had lashed out felt that he had lost face when his whip was caught, and he sent the youth flying with a slap. Wah! The youth was no match for the young master and spat out a mouthful of blood. The young master rode on his black flame beast and rushed forward, lashing out at the youth again and again. The youth's skin was torn open. Many people were angry, but they didn't dare to speak up. Who would dare to offend this group of second-generation Spirit Array Masters in Temple City? This kid is simply courting death. Who does he think he is? How dare he question young Master Emo? The group of people laughed as they looked at the half-dead young man who had been whipped. Seeing that the youth was twitching all over, Nyode rushed forward and stood in front of the youth. He pleaded with the young master called Young Master Emo. Young Master, please calm down. This child is still young and has offended you. Now that he has been punished, please be merciful and let this child go. Young Master Emo sneered. Today is really strange. There are actually so many fearless independent cultivators jumping out to find trouble with this young master. As soon as he finished speaking, young Master Emo lashed out at Nyo Dajiang's face with his whip. Immediately, the left side of Nyo Dajiang's face was torn open and fresh blood flowed out. Even his flesh was exposed, and he looked rather miserable. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.